Hi everyone, I want to welcome you to another edition of Halftime Chat, Must Be the Music. And today I have another special guest. I have Meelah, the lead vocalist of the R&B trio 702. And I'm really excited to speak to Meelah because I've been trying to get a hold of Meelah for quite a while, and persistence pays off, definitely. Um, so yeah, Meelah has been, she was part of 702. She still is part of 702. They are touring quite a bit right now. Um, but other part of what I wanted to really speak to Meelah about, as well as her career and stuff, is also she is a mother of a 13-year-old boy who is autistic, and being a child psychotherapist myself, is going to be interesting to hear her stories about how it is, the challenges and the blessings of being a mom of an autistic child, and also trying to juggle the career as a superwoman as well. So hopefully we can get continue to keep our interviews positive as we always do. And yeah, it's just be really fun just talking to Meelah and hearing her story. So I look forward to bringing her in.
Okay, there we go. Hi,
Hey, how you doing?
I'm good. Thank you for your patience. Pardon my tardy. I'm so sorry.
No, 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 no. It's been, I'm really excited about getting to speak to you. I mean, most of my interviews, I speak to the artists about their careers, but I'm a little bit selfish today because as a child's therapist, I work with a lot of families who have, children, and I work with children with autism, and so yeah,
Nice.
but
Thank you.
very few Black children in the UK who come forward. So it's going to be interesting just to hear a little bit about your experience, so I can, even when I go back to clinic tomorrow, I can take some of those tips as well. But
Oh, thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you for just, shedding light on it and when wanting to bring it to the forefront and speak to me about it. It's necessary.
yeah, yeah, and as I said, it's there are very few Black male therapists in the UK, and then
Wow.
very few Black families who come forward to get help, and so it is
Yeah.
something that's indirectly through my interviews. I get some of my guests to share about how they managed and struggled with their
Sure.
ups and downs, and so just to
Sure.
try and break the stigma. But as I say, we'll cover cover that.
I
Um,
always wondered, we have such a high number of autism here in the US. Um, I'd say it's probably half and half,
wow.
not blacks and whites and other nationalities.
Yeah.
It's becoming more and more prevalent in like every nationality. Of course, more boys than girls, but even now it's becoming girls. The numbers is growing with the girls. So I've always wondered how or if autism was a thing over in different countries. I've always been curious about that because I'm like, there's a lot of controversies out there and a lot of theories and conspiracies, if you will, so because
Yeah.
of that, it's like I always wonder, because you hear some parents, it's like, oh, it comes from this and oh, it comes from that. So I just wondered, like, I wonder how it is in other countries.
Yeah, I mean, here in the UK, the majority of the cases we see are white males,
Hmm.
white boys. Um,
Oh,
as a therapist, I get most of the teenage girls who come through who have sort of masked their autism, and
wow.
they
Okay.
didn't, unlike boys, when they feel like, they can't, this is a little too, they become very disruptive. Their behavior would say, look, I can't handle this, either the noise, the sensory stuff, or the social communication. So so that's why they get picked out earlier. With the girls, they learn to adapt, they learn to mimic, they learn to go under the radar,
Wow.
especially when they're in
Okay.
primary school.
Sure.
It is such a safe environment, so they learn to know how to maneuver. When they go to high school, and it's, they go from a school with 300 to a school of almost 1,000,
Of course.
socially that becomes really awkward, and so then they break down. So
Hmm.
I think there's a time a third of my patients were females who just got discovered, and so yeah, so but as I said, majority
Interesting.
are white.
Really?
Very few Black kids will identify, maybe with ADHD,
Sure.
but not with autism. Very few,
Mm.
and I say few that would come forward. You know, you always have to send. So my background is my parents are Nigerian, and so culturally, as
Mhm.
Africans, there's an aggressive sort of child way of raising the kids where discipline is really, and so if a child might just be on the border, I think with the type of parenting that is generally coming out from, say, African households, it's quite easy to manage it without having, to really put a lot of that in place.
Mhm.
However, it is important to be able to identify if there is autism, to be able to make allowances, because the last thing you want to do is to put a square peg in a round, in a round box.
Sure. And a lot of that tends to happen all the time, in Black communities here in America, in African American households. We too are generally raised with um, lots of assertiveness
Yeah.
and you know, um, but there are times when that's good, and then there are times where it may not be um, always the parenting style that is conducive to a child who may have a learning disability or some type of just developmental delays, because it tends to get overlooked.
I mean, how old was your son when you recognized that, okay, wasn't developing the same rate as others?
So my situation is unique in that I had a very easy pregnancy, but then I had a very traumatic delivery. So my entire pregnancy, everything was normal and looked normal. And when it came time for me to deliver, we realized, now, mind you, at this point, I'm about 2 weeks past my due date, which is not abnormal. Um, However, I guess my son, his name's Zach. So Zach, to my understanding, to my surprise rather, and to the doctor's surprise, had been, he had a bowel movement while in my stomach. And so that meant he kind of was just in distress. We don't know when that took place, how long he'd been sitting in his own feces, but because that was the case, he inhaled the toxin from the feces, which filled up his lungs, which contributed to him not really breathing when he came out. So from that point on, he was rushed to the hospital and was in the NICU for almost 2 months. That being said, he was on a lot of drugs. It was told to me that he probably wasn't going to live. And that, I mean, clearly that led to all of the delays. He had lack of oxygen to the brain. He was on morphine and all these other drugs, unfortunately, as a newborn, like into the world with all of this, all these things that are going into this little pure system that contributed to his delay. So most parents notice their kids at 2, 3, but Zach, unfortunately, was already kind of he came into the world at a disadvantage, if you will, because like I said, he came into the world under a lot of trauma and was in the hospital on all these machines and all these drugs and all that stuff, and naturally he was already delayed. Because I knew I had a traumatic delivery and because I knew what he'd gone through, I think we weren't looking for anything per se, because actually he walked early. He was babbling constantly. So I'm like, oh Lord, he's gonna be a talker. I'm like, oh, he's not gonna hush. And so everything looked normal. However, we would have these, recurring checkups, annual checkups, and his pediatrician and specialist noticed, hey, he's 1 now, but he's still not really saying mama or dada. And we're like, no. So that's when we decided to go ahead, per their suggestion, and put him in speech and occupational therapies. So we kind of went backwards before he even was diagnosed. We started what you call that, early intervention, which is often suggested. We recommend that a lot. I recommend that a lot to parents. If you see anything, start early intervention, get them in there in those therapies to help out. So we started there. So he wasn't even diagnosed, he was like 4, but he had already been in therapy for a few years then.
I mean, listening to that, I mean, how was that like for you? I mean,
oh my gosh. I mean, I can now tell the story without crying.
Yeah.
Only because he's 13 now. But even still, I still sometimes get very emotional, you know, about it. I'll randomly think about it from time to time, and it hurts my feelings. It really does. I thank God that he's here, and I see him every day walking around the house, getting on my nerves, and I'm like, and I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm like, oh my special miracle child that you are, you really irk my nerves, but I love him to pieces. I'm so grateful to God that, you know, he is here because according to the doctors, he was supposed to die. And I think they told us he had a 90% chance at death and a 10% chance at life.
Wow.
Right. And so Zach is 13, about to start the 8th grade on Thursday, 2 days from today. However, he is still on the spectrum, of course. So he's in a special education class, an autism class, and he's still very minimally verbal. He can say words. He's not a mute, so he can say words, he can talk, he can say some sentences that we teach him and that have been, you know, kind of ingrained in him, like that we've kind of trained him to say. And then he's come a long way. He definitely has shown progress and has gone from saying even less than he says now, you know. So he's making progress, but he's still, as a 13-year-old going to the 8th grade, is nowhere near on, you know, the level of I guess of a normal 8th grader. But I've learned how to communicate with him. Do you know what I mean? And he talks, but it's very, maybe 5 words. And and he needs a lot of prompting. So we try to, we meaning me, my mom, his dad, the therapist, his teachers, try to encourage him to, you know, use your words. I always say, no, use your words, Zach, because he'll get very lazy. He'll just like, be like water, and I'm like, what does that mean? You know what I mean? So you know, but it's every day, man. We have to we work with him every day. It's ongoing, but I'm grateful because, like I said, you know, I'd rather him be on the spectrum than not be here at all.
Yeah, and that's what I was going to say, because you think about, when you think about the 2 weeks and that you went through all of that stuff, and then you think about where you are now, and then some people might then start to think, you know, if they have to balance his spectrum. So yeah, because it's a really, but you almost appreciate it now.
Absolutely. I mean, for me, it was just looking back in hindsight. I mean, it was a whirlwind of a few things, because I had just relocated from California here to Georgia, and so you know, the only support system I had was his dad, who was great, but like, you know, you want your mom, and when you're like, you know, new to having a baby, you want grandma around. My mom, she had to like rush from Vegas. That's where, you know, originally from. And he was in the hospital for 2 months, and I had to go every day and take him my milk. You know, I was pumping and having to go to the hospital, and we couldn't spend the night. His dad and I could not stay with him until he was ready to come home, closer to being ready to come home. So like closer to the road to recovery. So like in the beginning, like the first month, man, we'd have to leave him clear across town, you know, in the hands of the specialists and the doctors and the nurses, which, you know, shout out to them. They did a phenomenal job, but that was rough. You know, as a first-time mom, a first-time dad, and oh, it pained me. Oh, oh God, it was hard, you know, but I pushed through it. Through the grace of God, I did much better than, looking back, I did great, actually, because I don't know how I got through it.
but how did you get to talk about this? How did you, it was just mentally and emotionally manage this?
So, you know, his dad and I, we leaned on each other, you know what I mean? It was not easy. I think we didn't know how to deal with it, because this is, like I said, this was his first child, my first child. And this is something that you never imagine yourself going through, or never foresee yourself having to go through, you know? So we just leaned on each other. My mom, who finally made it, you know, she's a very strong woman of faith. So, you know, I'm a woman of faith, so we prayed. You know, it was a lot of prayers and optimism, honestly. We try to distract ourselves with shopping for him. We take the nurses let his dad, you know, his dad is music soul child, so of course he took a whole boom, like a whole, back then it was like this Bose iPod, the old iPods. My son was born in 2009, so everything was back then. And they let us bring that speaker in his room. And so his dad created like this incredible playlist of a plethora of different types of music, from classical to jazz to pop to, oh my gosh, blues to, of course, mommy and daddy to, and just let it play. And that was our way of feeling like, okay, at least when we leave him, we know we're with him in that way. You know what I mean? And it was tough. I didn't like leaving him, but we would sometimes just like, I don't know, go to the movies, or, I mean, it was so hard. I didn't want to do anything, but I didn't want to feel defeated. I didn't want to feel hopeless. I didn't want to feel like, he's not going to make it. Like, I wanted to just try and act as normal as I could and push through as normal, whatever that looks like, as I could, So like I said, we just go shopping for him, get little cute trinkets and just fix up his room more. And we didn't know what to do with ourselves, honestly. So we were just, because every day we were going up to the hospital. We could only stay for so long. So when it was time to go, we go eat lunch there, had to go back, sit with him. He was asleep the whole time, mind you, as they called it, paralyzed. He was sedated.
Wow.
So I didn't even get to hold him for the first 4 days after I had him, because he was swept off to another hospital and I was at a different hospital and I couldn't go because I had an emergency C-section. So I had to wait until I healed, until I could go, and hold him and all that. So when I finally went, he's all wired up for the longest, for months. He was on the ECMO. They call it the ECMO machine. I don't know if you've heard of that. ECMO, and it acts as a heart, as lungs. It strengthens your lungs. So it strengthened his lungs so that his lungs wouldn't have to work. That machine did all the work and allowed him to just rest. So that machine, and God for sure, saved his life. And then he was finally able to go and be on a respirator. And it was a process. But he came home on Mother's Day, actually, 2 months later, almost 2 months later. Oh. And that was awesome. I was ecstatic. And of course he had to come home with like this tube and had to be tube fed and all of this stuff. He didn't know how to suck because, he was born into that. So I was just like, oh my gosh, it was, but I was like, okay, no, sir, we're not, I can't do this. Because I, as mommy, was going to have to put a tube down his nose into his stomach to feed him. Who wants to do that? I was like, I can't do that. Like, you can do it, Miss Williams. No, I cannot. So, I had to learn CPR. Like, it was just dramatic. But I get it. You have to go through all of this stuff in order to ensure that, you're ready for him to come home. So I brought him home and I did this tube thing. And I'm like, I can't do this. So I talked to him like, Zach, you're going to learn how to suck on my nipple. You've got this. So, because I called the hospital, I was like, I don't know if I could do this. This is just too traumatic for me. And they're like, try the nipple guard. It's this little thing you put in your breast. And I put it on and he latched on instantly. And I was like, oh, thank God. And so from there, it was cool and everything. From there on out, it was pretty easy after that. He started to eat regularly and normally, and he didn't have any other health issues, no medication, maybe a little bit of acid reflux. It was about it. But other than that, he was great. So we thought he was developing normal despite, his traumatic episode. But yeah, about a year in, we realized he was a little delayed with the language. Yeah. So he's language delayed, and he's still, to this day, also, his comprehension is delayed.
Yeah. I mean, listening to all this, I'm just wondering how much this affected child. Just as new couples, just their first child, and and you mentioned your mom prayer, and I'm thinking no therapy, no therapist. Talk you through this, and make sure those couples are strong and
right. Yeah. No, we probably. Thinking back, I'm sure we probably should have sought after some type of therapy as a couple, but we didn't. I think it really brought us closer at the time, but I do think eventually it probably took a toll. It was just all too much because I was overwhelmed. He was overwhelmed. He was still trying to work and he was still touring. I had pretty much stopped doing music to, take care of the baby, and so it took a toll because I didn't really know what to expect being a new mom, and then a new mom of a baby who would, come into the world like with all of that stress and drama and trauma, and it eventually weighed heavy. I think it's so, well, it's not funny, but it's interesting. He and I will talk about, we'll every now and again kind of go back to those moments, and he says, well, you definitely suffered from postpartum depression. I'm like, did I? And he's like, yes, you were depressed. I'm like, I was a zombie. I don't even remember. I was like, okay, maybe, he's like, but you handled it all really, really well. Like, he always tells me he thinks I did so great. He's like, I don't know how you did it, but you were so strong. And I'm like, well, you too. And that's why I say, I think we were just there leaning on each other, but it was a lot. And so I'm sure eventually, yeah, that whole thing, not Zach, I won't say, I'm not going to blame that on a strain on the relationship on Zach, not at all. I think it just comes with the territory of just being new parents, being in a new relationship, being a new family, being entertainers, all of that. It's just, coupled into being a couple who wants to make the best of it, but just really there's no handbook.
Yeah.
You don't really know. So I do think over time, yeah, it probably was a bit stressful for sure on both of us. And so yeah, we tried for quite some time, and then we just realized, like, okay, this is a lot, you know what I mean? But thank God, we're still co-parenting, we're still friends. Zach is still, our main priority. So
Yeah.
he's actually with dad now, which is awesome. So, I'm loving it. Look, that's how I can talk to you.
Before I transitioned to be a therapist and a clinician, I used to work. I worked in an inpatient, and I was working with females. And one mother who was a patient, she had a very similar. Her story was, I think the son had an issue with the heart, and for 6 months had to go to all this specialist stuff. And after they gave him the all clear, and he came home, Mom broke down. And what kept her going was making sure the child was fine. But once they said, oh, she's fine, then she broke down. And so she came in, and I remember just, and I think she needed the respite and needed a space to reflect and stuff. So as you were saying this, it just reminded me of her, just that sense of a lot of white families tend to seek therapy, get it out the system, and they're like, okay, so we know our strengths, our weaknesses, and move on. Very rare do we get the Black families. We'll go to church and get the prayer, but we're not getting the talking and the dialogue and all this stuff out, and knowing it's okay to be weak and maybe have regrets and think what if, and those aren't bad thoughts. It's just good to get them all out, and then you can say, well, at least I can reflect on stuff. So that's why therapists are good to have that talk.
I think, well, I know actually, I know that people are starting to pay, Black people, African Americans, we're definitely starting to pay a lot more attention to our mental health. We're realizing that those of us that were brought up in church understand that it's okay, and it's not against the will of God to seek, to seek therapy. Like, I think we're starting to become a bit more open-minded to that. Even some of our parents, maybe not, but some of them are. It's generational. But yeah, like I definitely have always been open to therapy. I don't know why I never went, but like back then especially, but I know for a fact that I need to just, if it's for nothing aside from just, like you said, just getting it out, just talking about it, you know what I'm saying? Because I do tend to hold a lot in, and then I'll just like regurgitate and erupt like a volcano, and then people will be like, okay, where'd all that come from? But it's necessary, and I think we're definitely starting to take more notice. Like I said, we meaning Black people here in America, because it's so vital. It really, really, really is. It's necessary. I know now here in America, there's a whole mental awareness month. There's a whole month dedicated to it. Don't ask me which one, but because it's kind of new. But no, and it's really important. I was going to a church where the pastor there, I loved how he put so much emphasis on seeking mental health, seeking counseling outside of church. You know what I mean? I loved that he was open to sharing that with us and letting us know, like, it's okay. We need that, do both. You know what I'm saying? Because we're humans at the end of the day. You know what I mean? And this is, God, I'm taking nothing away from you because you are my bestie. But you are my bestie. But it's just like, yeah, man, it's necessary. I know I need to talk to somebody because that was traumatic for me. Even though my son is 13, I can't front. I still blame myself for a lot of it.
That's what I was going to say. Yeah.
I still feel bad about, like, oh, did I wait too late?
And I was going to ask you that. Did you think, after 2 weeks, did you not?
Well, no, of course I was on top of everything, all my doctor's appointments and everything. But my doctor, what happened? How did we get to that? Oh, so again, like I said, women are often past their due date. Trust me, I've looked into it, and they had their babies, everything just fine. So that wasn't the abnormal part. Although when you add it up, that technically is 10 months pregnant. I think you're supposed to be pregnant 42 weeks or 40 weeks. And I was pregnant 42 if it's 40, or if it's 42, I was 44. You get it. So, but like, that's not, again, abnormal. However, because Zach had already had a bowel movement, clearly he was ready to come out, but he didn't know how. I think they said his head was, my pumpkin, his head was too big for my birth canal. I was like totally little my whole pregnancy, nothing but stomach. Like, I only gained 25 pounds. Okay, like I was pretty petite, right? What about, I wish now, but anyway, I was pretty petite. So, but I think because he was in there past the 2 weeks, he must have like grew, because you do tend to grow your very last trimester. You just, all of it, like your stomach is out. If you were little, your whole pregnancy, all of a sudden it's just like a big old watermelon. So he probably grew. He probably was really big by then, and at the time everything looked normal. But then something went awry somewhere. I did come to the hospital the weekend before. Because that's what happened. We induced me, but I didn't even make it to that day because I finally started having contractions. Mind you, my water had not broken. I hadn't dilated. So I think I went to emergency because I finally started feeling pain. So I went to emergency and they sent me home. They said that we called your doctor and she says you're scheduled to be induced 2 days from today. So unless your water breaks, send you home. So they gave me like a gallon of water and made me walk around to try to get my water. Nothing happened. So they sent me home. You shouldn't send me home. I mean, I'm already past my due date. But me being the first time, I didn't know any better. Okay, I went home. But I went right back the next day. I couldn't take it. It was pain, contracting again, right? So I went back. And at this point, they called my doctor in because it was, it was like, okay, we got to get this baby out. And we thought everything was cool. And I think they realized like the oxygen levels were low maybe. And that they probably realized he wasn't breathing. Cause I was like, I don't know what's going on. Just give me some drugs. So I was in so much pain. So I was like, just give me the drugs. And I guess that's when they noticed that his oxygen numbers were low and my water still hadn't broken. So they broke it for me because they had to just, go ahead and get this baby out. And that's when they noticed the water was green, which indicated that he had the bowel movement. Yeah.
And that's what I mentioned about in the midst of all that, that's where guilt could say, what if we had done this,
of course,
if we had done that,
of course,
and all the seconds in the
Of course. I mean, I even went as far as I started a lawsuit. I tried to sue the hospital. I tried to sue the doctor. Like, I was really angry because I'm like, well, she should know. And you know what I mean? Like, why would you wait until then? And the firm I went with didn't say that I didn't have a case, but after doing a CAT scan of his brain, it came back normal, actually. And so they were like, well, his CAT scan came back normal of his brain. So we're not saying don't pursue it, but we don't want to move forward. I guess they kind of wanted it to look differently, maybe, to argue the case. And it was so taxing on me and trying and tiring, just even trying to do that lawsuit, because you have to kind of relive everything and get all the paperwork and get all this records. And then I said, you know what, I dropped it. And I said, you know what, God, it's just, this is how he was meant to be. You gave him to me this way. It is what it is. And I let it go.
Yeah.
I was like, you know what, even if I win all the money in the world, Zach is still going to be Zach. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Until I just kind of dropped it. But of course, I rethink that night. I rethink, you know, that moment at the hospital. I mean, of course, I often just, like you said, what if, or did this, or should I have, or yeah, absolutely. But that in itself needs some therapy.
Yeah. So
I know it's really not my fault. Like I gotta let that go. You know what I'm saying? Like I gotta not beat myself up.
Yeah. So so that there's a small elements of PTSD, which is, you know, post-traumatic stress disorder. And what it does is it gives you, you can sometimes relive the events and you know, and start rethinking it. So there's a part that then you need to go through that whole event, weigh out all the options, and then be able to recognize that actually it's not your fault, especially if you're leaning on your faith as well, where you're saying that, no, God, are you telling me that he couldn't have, you know, done anything? So what's the bigger picture here? What is this?
Exactly.
What's Zach's life supposed to mean, not just for me, but for others as well?
And that's what I had to learn. And it came to me around the time that he got his autism diagnosis. And that's when I created a nonprofit in his, you know, in his honor. And I was like, oh, duh. Okay, I get it. It's purpose. You know what I mean? It's the bigger picture here. It's my purpose. Like, he's the way he is for me and for others, for me to use my platform to help others, to speak about it. You know what I mean? To draw attention to bring attention to. I did a reality show and I was reluctant for several reasons. Definitely didn't want to talk about my son. I felt like it was private. You know, I didn't want to share it. I wasn't ready to share it. And then I finally got a peace of mind about it and was like, you know what? You need to share it. People need to know that you are like everyone else and are raising a special needs kid. You're learning still. You're not ashamed of it. You want to be a voice, if nothing else, but to help others, to show them like, hey, you're not alone in this, you know? And that's one of the reasons why I decided to kind of open up about it. That was when he was around 3 or 4 years old, when he had just gotten the diagnosis. And to this day, I get so many DMs and people on my timeline, questions, support, just kind of like thanking me for being open about it. I'm not daily on my social media, you know, posting about autism with my son and special needs. No, I'm not. I used to do a whole lot more. I think now it's just more so because, I mean, it's just, I live the life. Autism awareness is not just April, it's every day for me. So, so oftentimes I'm just like, I don't even think about putting up no posts because I'm over here trying to figure it out, like in real time.
Yeah.
But I love the fact that there's so many moms and dads who contact me. I learn through them. Like, I have met so many people on social media who have not one, not two, sometimes 3 kids on the spectrum. What? I didn't even know that could be possible.
Hereditary as well. Hereditary. So hereditary. It may skip a generation, but it's hereditary. So
and that's always been. I always wonder about that. Like, is that a thing? Is it really something that could be hereditary or genetic? Like, I don't know. There's so many.
Over here it is. I mean, majority, and when you do get an older generation who they weren't tests, but they'll always say, yeah, my granddad, he used to be very weird about stuff, or the dad used to be very angry, but they, you know, there weren't any tests back in the 70s and 60s.
Of course.
So
that's true. And no labels for it, you know.
There were labels.
They didn't know what to call it. You know, that's very true, because back in the day, it was just considered mental retardation. And now in America, you know, the word retard or retardation it's more of a derogatory term. So it's now gone from that to mentally challenged, mentally ill, or just autistic, or like you said, what's the other one? Not ADHD, Asperger's. That's another form. you
Yeah,
know.
there's another form. Yeah, we got mainly girls with that here.
Really? That is
Yeah,
so interesting. Okay.
and with the girls, they are. I try and describe them. If you ever watch Star Trek, Spock or Data, very
Okay.
logical, no emotions. And so if someone has cracked a joke and they're like,
Yes.
am I supposed to laugh? If I
Right.
laugh, when do I
Right.
stop?
They're
So that
very serious, aren't they?
yeah, so that yeah,
Yes.
and some of them like to play alone, or you may have some that says, well, if I'm playing with you, I'm taking control of it. So the social cues are the things that they struggle with. So
Yes.
as I
Well, that just
mentioned,
sounds like
girls are good.
autism to me.
Well, girls, it doesn't sound.
Zach's that. I said that just sounds like autism to me. That sounds like Zach. He preferred to play alone.
Yeah, he prefers to play alone. Now, what I do tell parents that I because they were like, well, how can we get them to be social? I said, look, you if he's going to excel in his little silo, then why try and teach him to integrate with everyone when that's going to
That's
sort of
right.
it's not
It's
yeah,
not fun
ideally
for
you
that.
want him to get married, you want him to have friends and companionships and stuff, but you
Listen,
don't want to overdo it and stuff, because he's going to be great at what he does.
that's
Sometimes they prefer working in like computer programming and just by
mm-hmm.
themselves.
Mm-hmm.
And then yes, the things that you're teaching them is about the need to take breaks and the need to engage with others, but
Sure.
not overdo it. You don't
Right.
if he doesn't
Don't
like
force it on them.
yeah, if he doesn't like attention,
Yeah.
you don't throw a surprise birthday party, invite everyone around. It's you just
Oh
like,
my, listen, I just did that for Zach for his 13th birthday. Like I forced a birthday party on him because I was like, this is gonna be the last hurrah. I'm not gonna throw him any more parties because I know he doesn't like it really. He does, but I was like, you're turning 13, we gotta do it. He was it wasn't a surprise. I built it up. I told him about it for about a week, but he was so not interested.
yeah, of course,
Did not have a good time.
yeah,
Wanted all those people to go away.
yeah,
Wanted to come home, and I knew that was probably going to happen, but that was just me as mom feeling like I did my part to just celebrate him. Like I said, there's a lot of mom guilt happening, but I know my child. Yeah, I know what he likes and doesn't like. I'm not about to force nothing else on him. Like I know he does not like amusement parks. It's too overstimulating. I took him to Disney World. I thought he was going to enjoy it.
No, it's too busy, too loud.
Yeah, he was about 7. He was younger.
Okay.
And he couldn't care less about Mickey Mouse.
Yeah.
Or any other characters. He had the most fun in the hotel room, in the bed, on his iPad. Yeah. That's it. He didn't care about the amusement park at all. We took him recently to Sesame Place. This is before the
for the dramas. Okay.
Yeah, and he did not like it. He didn't want to be there. Once again, he was irritable. He didn't have fun at all. Got back to the hotel room, comfort zone. It's just him, mommy, dad.
Does he have friends?
Not really. He's an only child. I don't have any other kids, and so, my family's mostly, back in Vegas and other parts. So, well, he has cousins like on his dad's side. Not really his age though, but I mean, Zach's 13 and developmentally he's probably like 8. So, he can play with other kids. Yes. But no, he doesn't really have any friends. We don't really
Even
have
in school?
Well, he has friends that he's been knowing since like they've been together since like kindergarten. Or since like 2nd, 3rd grade that have been in his class. And so he's familiar with them, of course, but we don't really have play dates. I think all the parents are just kind of, we're to ourselves, kind of. I know that's so weird. I guess I'm anti too. Shoot, I'm learning from Zach. So it's like, but he plays with, like I said, his cousins on his dad's side. Every now and again, he'll play with them. He likes that. He'll take him to the movies. He'll do stuff with them. But for the most part, like Zach don't want nobody in his space. He just doesn't. If someone comes over to play with him, he gets very, very territorial. He doesn't want them to touch his stuff. And I'm like, you cannot be like that. He's like, leave my stuff alone. And go, they're very
yeah.
They like to arrange and it's systematic.
Yeah.
So he's looking like, please don't touch my stuff. Please get out.
That's why I was wondering if he had another child similar traits, because they're very similar, and seeing how they they coordinate, how they, if it's, can we order it in the same way, this at the same time, or even have games where it is about putting things in order and see who can do it the quickest, or just.
It's so interesting because even though he's been knowing those boys, because it's been boys in his class up until sixth grade was the first time we had girls in this class. It's always been boys. Sixth grade, and when he got to middle school, we finally had girls in the class. But even with that, like I've gone to like lots of school programs of his, and I watch them and watch how he interacts or doesn't interact. And he does what he has to do because it's routine, and he's learned it from what's been orchestrated and taught to him from the teachers, and how their routine is, whatever it is they're doing. But I can tell that he's doing it because he's there, but he's like, but I'd rather not. Like, I don't want Billy to come home and play with me. I'll tolerate him at school, but I'm really not interested. So he doesn't care much. And I want to get him out of being so anti, and I do want him to integrate and to kind of be social. But like you just said, I'm not going to force that on him either. Do you know what I mean? Like, I've learned now, the older he gets, I'm realizing, I'm like, and that's what I try to tell my mom and everyone else or whomever. I mean, grandma, she pretty much gets it at this point, but because she lives with me, and she's like, yeah, I get it, because we know him. But to others, they're like, well, maybe you should do that. You should do that. No, I know my child, and I'm not going to force him. And I don't want him. Yes, you do have to get them out. I do believe in getting them out of their comfort zone sometimes. Absolutely. I do that by introducing him to new things, because I just think that's necessary. Not even if he wasn't on the spectrum, I think children should experience different things. My parents did it for me. I may not like everything, but at least they exposed me to certain things. If I liked it, I liked it. If I didn't, I didn't. But just give me the opportunity to choose. I want him to have, a very fair chance at life, and I want him to be able to see and experience. But listen, he has made it very clear that he does not care. He doesn't care about. I have taken him to all types of stuff, and he's always not interested. He's always ready to come home. He always has an attitude, and once we get home, he's full of life. He's happy, he's jolly, he's smiling, his energy is better. So I'm like, you know what? I'm not going to torture the poor child.
Yeah. Well, if home is his comfort zone, then I guess it's bringing the new things into the comfort zone. But it's I think but also I think having not like a rota, like a schedule, so he's very much aware that okay, in 2 weeks' time, Johnny's going to come over for 30 minutes. And you guys are going to do this, and then Johnny's going to go. And so he can be prepared for that. So it's not like
that's very true. So I do that sometimes. So I bought a whole trampoline. It's outside, and he does not care. And it's just taking up space, and I'm so angry that I bought it because it's been a waste of money. But anyway, he doesn't want to go get on it. He loves to jump, but I've been taking him to jump since he was like 2 years old at like indoor playgrounds. So I'm thinking like, oh, you got your own. And he's like, that's not, like, he's looking at me like, what is that? It's different, right? So he just will not get on it. So I said, okay, Zach, will you jump on it if I bring, and I named like one of his dad's friends' children, if I bring him over to play with you and you guys jump on it together? Then he said yes. And I said, okay, so you want me to bring, such and such, or such and such could come? And he's like, yes. Certain kids, he's like, no. His classmates, he said no.
Okay.
I think he associates that with school. But his cousins and everything, like, he said, okay. So I was like, all right, so I think if I bring someone over to jump with him, he may get on it.
Yeah.
I have yet to test out that theory. I got on it with him, and I thought that would help. And he was just looking at me like, girl, okay.
Yeah.
But you're right. You have to definitely, it's structural. Everything needs sure. For sure.
Okay.
Stresses me out. It stresses me out, friend.
Yeah. I know. As I said, it's easy for me. Once a week, I see a parent and a family, and then I say, I go home and stuff. But I think why I enjoy working with autistic children is it challenges me to, even all my training is in child psych, in treating children and parents. But it just challenges you because you can't. One is not the same, and you spend it. Yeah, and you have to spend. So when I treat children, I spend maybe 2 or 3 weeks just sitting in a room listening to them talking about their imaginary world or their drawings and stuff, and then you get a picture, and then it's like, okay, now I get a picture of who you are. And then I can talk to the family and say, okay, this is what you need to do and stuff. But you just need to, you just sit in and observe and listen to all the stories and all the quirky things they say and the little things they do. And
so how do you do that with like nonverbal or minimal? Well, I don't say he's nonverbal. Like minimally verbal.
Well, I had a selective mute boy who was 16, and he used to have his, he'll mumble to his mum, and the mum would have to interpret, and I had to get mum out of the room. And I said, for the next 6 weeks, you are going to sit in front of me and we're going to have a conversation. Now, I know he had speech and language in order to help him with that. So I didn't expect him to speak with me, but I needed him to communicate to me. And then we can communicate. And that would be either through drawings, and then I'm having to come out with different pictures and different things like that. But for him, his depression was, he thought he had a death sentence because he was autistic. It meant life was so part of his assignment was to look at 20 famous people who were autistic. And so him to see that actually, to look at what from J.K. Rowling to the Harry Potter lady, all these people who had autism, but look at how they've succeeded. And so that was something that he had to recognize and say, well, so now what are you going to contribute to this world? You can see what these others have done. So, part of that work was to be able to get him to recognize that it wasn't a death sentence.
Good. I need to bring Zach to you. Okay, so I got to get Zach's passport. Which I do want to, by the way. I want to expose him to different things. He's traveled with me before, but like not across the pond, like not internationally. So I definitely want to. I don't know though, because that's a long flight, and he has issues with his ears. He kind of now anticipates his ears hurting. So he freaks out before we take off, and I'm like, we haven't even taken off, Zach.
Well, are you guys? You're coming to London in October, aren't you?
We are. Yes. Well, he'll be in school. Well, he'll be in school.
Okay.
I mean, I could let him miss.
No, it's fine. Yeah. No, but as I said,
I had to bring Zach on a trip where mommy's not working. We'll see. I thought about that, but I don't know. That's a little too soon.
But as I said, as I said, a child therapist well, I don't know if they all do that, but that's something that I had to do. I mean,
that's excellent.
It's just, I watched, not just watching them play, just playing with them. And I had one girl who was 7, and she would come into her little therapy room and she'll do hide and seek. And it was just 2 chairs and she'll be playing hide and seek. And I'm just watching and observing, and then she started to do her imaginary world and talk about all the imaginary creatures and all this stuff. And so I needed, because her stuff is she couldn't sleep. So since she was born, she couldn't sleep. She would always have to leave her room and go sleep with her parents. And every night. And so, but after I got to understand that because she had such a vivid imagination, she could, this is the same J.K. Rowling, they could come up with all these stories and everything. She had very vivid nightmares. So they were very real to her. So once I could understand, put the two together, then it became about, okay, how do we utilize your imagination to actually protect you as opposed to running away from it? So have security guards, build a big fortress, we get a magic pillow, so when you sleep on it, you get transported. For the first time in 8 years, she was able to spend her time in her room, and it changed, but as I said, by knowing that, I could then tell the parents what to do, and that's how. So it is about just studying him, listening, and then seeing the world through his eyes. And then you can start.
I'm still learning.
It's harder for parents, though, as I said, because I'm a parent, and I can't do anything with my kids if they struggle. It doesn't work on my own kid, your own kids.
Isn't that interesting?
Yeah,
my kid acts totally different with me than he does with his teachers.
Yeah,
his teachers give me a complete opposite report of what I experience at home. Yeah. And they're like, well, they're not just kids on the spectrum, just kids in general are different with their parents. And they tend to treat mom different from. And I'm just like, what is that?
Yeah.
So, I mean, don't get me wrong, I'd rather him act up with me than them, but I don't get it. I just don't get it.
Yeah, well, but parents are the safety net, and they say
so they run out, so they take advantage because
we hurt the ones we love, where we can feel safe and secure. You go in in public and you act as natural as you can, and you come home and you just yell and scream and goodness, I hated it. And you let seem, because it's a safety space, and
right.
It's not a deliberate stuff, and so which is fine. But as he gets older, it's good to be able to, because it gets hard if he's 17, 18, and he's very used to being isolated. It becomes almost hard to break that habit. So that's where it's starting as much as you can to get at the routines where he's out a lot. Yeah, and he has a space, but he has a chart to know that, okay, you've got 5 hours this week that you need to be out, and 2 hours that you need to be with a friend. So he knows what to expect, and so he grows into that.
Absolutely, and this is why I recently put him back into Taekwondo. I think I put him in around 2019, and then COVID happened.
Yeah.
And so we hadn't been, but for the summer, I'm like, okay, you got to do something more than just sit in this house, in this room, on this iPad, on this TV, sir. So. Yeah. So I put him back in Taekwondo. He's not enjoying it like he used to, but I don't care, because I know he needs some form of interaction with his peers. You know, he doesn't even know these kids, but it's not about that. He needs some other activity, outside of his comfort zone. And so that's why I like to take him to different places. And like I said, he doesn't always like it, but I just like to get him out, because like you said, the older they get, it's hard. It's hard. I can see that now. It's harder than it used to be when he was younger to get him out.
So one thing that I do with the older kids, and mainly girls, is that I create a little spreadsheet, which is a daily sort of energy spreadsheet. So it's like you got a full cup today, and every time you do something that's stressful, it takes it out of your cup. So, and it could be having to speak in class, having to go to music or do PE. So it saps out a lot. And then on the other side is, well, what are the things that fill it up? So maybe being on the iPad, maybe going for a jog, maybe eating ice cream. So the idea for them visually is to say, each day might be, you may have Tuesdays you hate it because you have to do PE, but then what can you do on that Tuesday that fills it up, that nullifies the PE? So you can look forward to each day. So you can put up with Taekwondo because you're going to have 10 hours on your iPad. You can put up with playing with Billy because you're going to go. So it in a way, visually, they see it as if, okay, it's not it's their brain computing that actually it's not a bad day today, because even I'm going to hate this, but I'm looking forward to this. And so naturally, most of us can say, I've had a bad day. I'm going to go, put on a movie, take a glass of wine. So we naturally can do that. But when they're on the spectrum, they can't do that. They can't. So you need to almost visually say, now you can see you've had a better day than you had a worse day. And so they can, at the end of each day, work towards making sure the day is much better because they've filled up that cup.
Well, that's what a lot of his therapists would always ask. What does he like? What does he enjoy? And I'm like, honestly, really just the iPad, playing his games on there and watching his little animated shows or movies on that iPad. He loves that dang on iPad. So they'd say, well, use that, and say, hey, use that as a reward, to reward him. Like, hey, if you do this, then you'll get your iPad for a little bit. Do you know what I mean? So I try to use that because there's nothing else that he likes to do. He does like to draw. He likes to doodle, and he loves hanging his drawings all on my refrigerator, Lord. And oh, if you saw those drawings, but I really thought my baby was gonna be able to draw, because my mother draws. It's her hidden gift, her hidden talent, and his dad draws. I'm not that girl. I draw stick figures, but I guess he took after me because his drawings.
But can he tell a story?
I love them. Absolutely. I love his little characters. They are his, you know what I mean? And,
but does he create a story out of them? Can he create a story out of them?
I've not seen that yet. What I see is a lot of repetition. he draws the same little characters over and over and over.
Doing anything else, or just in the same position, just in?
Yeah, just randomly floating on the page. But he has a specific style, a specific go-to look of these characters. But he really enjoys it. You know, I buy him lots of sketchbooks, lots of drawing pads, lots of I recently bought him paint, not for the first time. I bought him paint and watercolors, and oh my gosh. But I don't know that he's really he's not tackled the graciousness of the stroke. He's so forceful. He just digs in. I said, Zach, that's not another story. But anywho, he does like to doodle and draw his little characters, and he names them.
Okay.
So I'll say, well, what's this was name, and what's that was, you know. So I do enjoy seeing him at least. I don't know, be creative in that way, you know, and use his imagination in that way. He loves the arts. Naturally, I guess it's in his DNA. He loves music. He loves acting out. Well, I guess with autism, it's more so scripting or echolalia. When he was younger, they would call it, or you know, repeating basically. What he hears on his little cartoons. He repeats it over and over and over, or he'll rewind it over and over and over, the same parts. You know.
Yeah.
Now that he's older, oh God, I've been living with that for years. Jesus, I know all his cartoons. I know everything by heart, but because he plays so much. But he loves to act it out, and he loves learning the dialogue and acting out these parts and being these characters. So I'm like, okay, I need to get him in maybe like drama or musical theater. And it's so interesting because he doesn't really talk, right? It's like minimally. But when he sings and mimics these characters and the dialogue, there's no word that's missed, even if it's not fully, you know, articulated or enunciated. You know, he says it the best he can, but he's going for it. And I'm like, well, why don't you talk to me like that, Zach? Why don't you talk? Why don't you have a conversation with mommy like that? And he just looks at me like, girl, what are you talking about? So,
but have you got him to be able to record those different parts and put it in together video?
Yes, he does a lot of rewinding and cutting and pasting and things of that sort by himself.
Of himself, though.
Of himself.
Yeah, so recording himself doing the lines, and then he cuts it.
He loves hearing his voice.
Oh no! Oh, he doesn't visually. So he's acting out the part. He's acting on another part. Then he's going to put it together visually, and then create a movie.
Something like that, if you will, yeah. Or he'll just record the TV, hold the iPad up to the TV, and then his voice is in the background saying the dialogue, and he just saves all these videos.
Okay.
And he loves playing it back and hearing himself. And then he's found some apps on the iTunes store, the App Store, that help him to create music. And so he'll make little tracks. He loves singing along to the theme songs of all the stuff that he watches. So clearly he loves music and, like I said, the arts, I guess acting. He doesn't even know that he's acting or that's what's happening, but he's drawn to it. He's intrigued. He would stop as a toddler in the middle of what he was doing. He wouldn't pay the cartoon any mind. Like he'd be playing on the floor with something, and the cartoon would just be playing in the background. But as soon as that theme music would come on, or the theme music would be going off, what have you, he'd stop and just look at the TV. And then when it would go off, he'd go back to doing this. And I'm like, and I noticed that early. I'm like, so he likes the music, and he would now that he's older, he harmonizes to it all the time. He'll harmonize to the songs. He records himself with the main note, the middle note, the low note, in between notes. I mean, and this is just natural. This is nothing
just on his iPad. He doesn't have a sort of
a correct, no setup. His dad brought him a little baby grand. We bought him drums. My sister bought him a guitar. Not interested.
No, there's a guy called Jacob Collier who who got sort of signed to Quincy Jones, but he just recorded his vocals on computers, and almost like the sort of like Take Six. So
Mm.
there is so so nowadays it's all computers and all this stuff. So it is getting him programs where he can explore his talents, which is either
Yes.
video production or filming
Right.
or things like that, as opposed to
Absolutely.
learning how to play guitar, because that's
Right.
he
He's
probably
like,
is
I'm
going
not
to
gonna need that.
no. So if he's using his computer, his iPad, then say let's give you a Mac where you can
Absolutely.
record
Yes.
visually
Like
and
go
audio
garage band or something and figure something
and
out.
yeah, and get somebody who knows how to do it and just sort of guide him along there so he can see
Absolutely.
what he's done and how he can take it further. And then that's
And hone that. So that's what Dad and I have been just kind of sitting back watching, just to see, what he gravitates towards and what exactly it is that he's, I don't know, doing, and maybe more so like his strengths, I guess. So that, like you said, we can like, okay, then put him with someone who can help to really hone that and recreate that and like kind of get him to understand what he's doing, and so to perfect it, if you will.
well, almost you want to give him free reign. So if he
And
just knows
so
how
that's
to
really
use
what we were doing. Yeah.
if he knows how to use the apps on the computer, then let him just
Oh, he
create a
does
way.
more than me.
Once if you give him a laptop and all this stuff and he just learns how to operate it, then he goes
Yeah.
out and creates his own thing.
Well, Dad is great with that too. That's Dad's. Like I'm not really savvy with the computer. I know enough to zoom with you today.
Yeah, as I said, you can see that, I know the audience will be upset if I don't even talk about your career and your life.
I know.
Because
I'm sorry, I can talk about this all day.
But you can see how intrigued I am about this.
I love it. Thank you so much. I really appreciate you, seriously, because I've had interviews where we definitely talk about autism and how it affects me and whatever. But I've never had an interview where it was just solely designated to autism. So thank you.
No. But I do hope you do. Yeah, but it's good to talk. As I said, that's the one thing. I mean, I'm a Christian, but I learned that, if my heart was hurting me, I don't say, well, God, are you going to heal this, or do I go to the doctor?
Listen,
but if our brain is hurting, we're like, well, God, you're going to take care of this. Forget the psychiatrist or the therapist.
Right. Yeah. Well, listen, we're quick to pop a pill if we have a headache. We might do Tylenol or something. So, hey, it's the same thing. Like, hey, go find you a therapist. Then it's equated.
But as long as
it's like a pain.
Yeah, definitely. But as long as I said, I think just closing off on this is just, if you do learn to think, actually, there was nothing that anyone could have done, and if you can appreciate that, especially as a family of faith, that actually there's a purpose for Zach. There's things that he's going to achieve that, man, you don't even know. And this is about all the heartaches and stresses and everything is about learning to appreciate him and appreciate his journey and where he's going to go and what he's going to achieve, and be able to sit back one day and says, wow, I knew he was going to be great, but I didn't realize he was going to be this great.
Oh, gosh, thank you. Thank you for saying that. No, I strongly believe that. And, I touch and agree with you with that. It took me a while to get to that mindset, but I know that he definitely has a greater purpose. And I used to be like, okay, well, he's still not talking, but maybe when he's 5, okay, maybe when he's 7, okay, maybe when he's 9. Like, I mean, I was doing that, as a mom. I'm looking up like, and I stopped. I mean, he's 13 now, and it's like, it's okay. He's talking well enough for me to, like I said, understand him. And if I don't understand him, I ask him to spell it. And I never did sign language with him because I told myself, no, he's going to talk. I'm not going to learn or teach him sign. And some would argue that that's ignorant. I don't know. But I was like, I'm not going to learn sign language, and I'm not going to teach him. So I was like, he's going to talk. And he is talking. Can he fully have a back and forth banter, a back and forth conversation? No. But he can talk. He can say things that he wants and needs. And, if he cannot, because there are a lot of things that he still does not understand. Like I said, his comprehension is delayed as well. But if he cannot, You know, we just go back and forth until I figure out what it is he needs or wants. And I don't always know. And it's not always easy. And it is frustrating and challenging. But I do know that God did not save his life for nothing.
Yeah.
You know, he could have died.
Yeah.
Just being frank. I'm like, I'm a firm believer that God saved his life for a reason, and one that supersedes me, one that is beyond my thoughts, like you just said, you know, like one that I'm not even expecting. So I just choose to hold on to that.
Yes. Well, I with that, I do need to then do the interview about.
Okay.
So, you know, we do have an international audience, and they're going to say, where is Meelah from? So where were you born and raised?
I was born and raised in Las Vegas, Nevada. For those of y'all who have been to the States, I'm not sure if you've been to Vegas, but Vegas is, they call it Sin City. Yeah. They got all the hotels and casinos and bright lights. It looks like a little Disneyland, if you will, because it's all the if you go on the strip is the hotels and the gambling, and it's 24 hours. It never shuts down. 24-hour alcohol, 24 hours sex, drugs, rock and roll. It's out there.
Now, because I mean, I would wonder, because I went to college in the States, and I lived in LA for a number of years. And I used to drive down to Vegas. But I do wonder, if you were born and raised in Vegas, I mean, were your parents working in the casinos? Because I wouldn't imagine they weren't farmers and stuff. So why were you raised in Vegas?
I get that question all the time. That is so funny. So I had family members who worked in the casinos, but and actually my dad, I think, was a chef at one of the casinos. I think he used to cook at one of the hotels in the kitchen or something. So he worked at a hotel for a short time. I think my mom was a security guard at a hotel for a short time, but they didn't stay at the hotels for long. But
were they from Vegas themselves?
My mom was born in Las Vegas, actually. Wow. I know, in 1952, she was born in Vegas. Wow. But most Blacks in Vegas migrated from the South. And or, you know, other Midwestern cities or whatever. And so they moved to Vegas for better opportunity, better life, better jobs, to my understanding. My grandfather, my grandparents, they were now deceased. They lived till like they were 90 something. They moved to Vegas when, I don't know, but they had 8 kids, and I know all of my aunts and uncles are still alive. And my mom was one of the 8 that was born in Vegas. So I'm like really from Vegas. But my dad, my mom and dad met when he was like 18. He's from the South, like Louisiana. Okay. But he moved to Vegas and met my mom. So there are a lot. I get the question of like, well, are there Black? I didn't even know Black people live in Vegas. Oh, it's a lot of us. It's a whole lot of us. Yeah, just moved from just surrounding areas, and but Vegas is definitely a melting pot. I definitely grew up with all, you know, nationality of friends. I went to school with you know, not just Blacks, but also I had Indian friends and Italian friends, and gosh, one of my closest friends was a little Irish girl, and you know, oh yes, and I would, and God, I remember their names. I used to love. I love looking back now as an adult. I love the fact that I was exposed, you know, to different cultures. You know what I mean? Because a lot of some of my friends who were from the East Coast or from up north, you know, and which would be like Virginia, New York, whatever, they weren't exposed to that. So it'd be kind of weird to them, like, and I'm like, yeah, I grew up with a little bit of everybody in Vegas. Yeah. And but I appreciate that experience. But that's why now I live in Atlanta, and that's why when I first started coming to Atlanta, I was so like, oh, this is beautiful, because it was so many of us. It was just so many Black people. I was like, Chocolate City, like yeah. I didn't really have that growing up in Vegas. There's a lot of us out there, but it was, like I said, it's a multicultural, you know, jambalaya. So here in Atlanta, I would be like, wow, there's a lot of us, and there's a lot of us that are successful here, are not just employees, but actually business owners. And you know, I didn't see that a lot growing up in Vegas. I will say there's not a lot of culture in Las Vegas. But I love growing up in Vegas. I know I did not. I wasn't born in a hotel. We have churches and movies and parks and skating rinks and what do you call that? Drive-in theaters, and we have like everybody else. We don't have beaches or it's dry, it's the desert, but we have mountains actually.
Yeah.
To the mountains, the sky sits really low, so you can see the stars at night are so beautiful. Look like you just pull one right out because it's a valley. It's flat.
Yeah.
No trees. Our lake is man-made, so it's dry there. But growing up in Vegas is beautiful. It's a beautiful place to live, but I mean, clearly I moved because I guess I wasn't that taken by it. So I'm like,
no, but if you've been there all that
that's
time.
not a long time, yeah. But I have a whole family, a huge family that's still in Vegas.
I mean, because you mentioned church and stuff, and you talk about your faith. Did you sing in church, or was it in school that you started singing?
Sang in church. Yep, I grew up singing in church. I sang in school as well. I was in the choir at school in elementary. I was leading songs in the school choir, like in 5th grade. I think I have it on video cassette, actually.
Oh, goodness.
Oh, gosh. I think we sang like What the World Needs Now. And I think we sang Celebration by like Kool and the Gang. This is all of 4th and 5th grade, okay?
Wow.
I have it on tape. It's so funny. I have it on VHS. So I was singing in school, and then I think by age 7, I was leading songs in the church choir. My mother had joined church, and my sister, got my sister and I in the choir, and I wasn't even really trying to sing like that. I knew I liked to sing, but I didn't really know that there was something that I didn't know that was something I like really wanted to do. I know I liked singing, like I like music.
Yeah.
But in my mind as a 5, 6, 7-year-old, you know how you hear people say, "Oh, I've been singing since I was 2." I ain't been singing since I was 2. But I definitely started young. I started like around, like I said, I was in elementary singing in the choir. And then my first solo at church was about age 7. Yeah. That's when I knew, like, okay, I think I might be kind of good at this. I think I might have a natural talent at this. And so from there, like, and I didn't even go after the solo. The pianist, our musician at the time, just picked me out. It was, I don't know what he heard, because I was singing with the choir. I was a little kid, and he just, I guess it was God, not to get all deep, but because he just was like, "Hey, I want you to lead this song." And I was 7, and I'm just like, okay. And from there, I just started, I realized like, oh, okay, I'm not too bad at this. And so then my mom realized it as well, and was just like, okay, cool. And she just started putting me in talent shows around town, and oh gosh, you name it, she had me in it. Weddings, track meets, I was doing the national anthem, drinking, fashion shows. I probably was at somebody's bar mitzvah. I don't know. Meelah was there in Vegas, singing all around town. I was singing. And I always sang by myself. I was never with, a group or other, people. Like I was always a one-man band. Until I met the girls later in high school.
But your mum was sending you to all these talent contests and stuff. What was the aim? What was her? Did she tell you?
I don't know. I think she realized I really enjoyed it, and clearly, I guess she realized, hey, my daughter has kind of knack for this, and so I liked being. She wasn't a stage mom, like pushing me to do it. I guess I enjoyed it. I always wanted to win. I wasn't super competitive, but I definitely wanted to win. So we'd go after these things, just really, I think, for exposure, and just because it just felt good to do. And so I won a few like local contests, and I would win these awards. And of course, that made me feel like, okay, well, why not? Let's just keep doing this and see what happens. By the time I was 13, I think I went into the recording studio for the first time. I think I sang Whitney Houston's Miracle. And I didn't realize, now mind you, I had been singing all this time in church, which is a different experience from singing in the studio. So I go in the studio and I'm like, it was a lot more work. And I quit. I quit at 13. I told my mom, I don't want to do this anymore. And my mom got upset with the producer and said, don't push her. You're pushing her too hard. Oh, God, I remember this like yesterday. I never told this story before. That's so funny. And the producer's like, what do you mean? Like, I'm basically like, I'm making her great. Because he was pushing me beyond my comfort zone and just challenging me vocally, I guess. And it was it was frustrating to me because I was like, no, like this, I don't, I sing like this at church, not like this. And it was wild. I just remember being like, I don't want to do this anymore. My mom was like, well, you don't have to do it. So I quit at 13. I told myself I was done singing. And then fast forward, I wasn't. And so I kept singing and local stuff. And I think ultimately I wanted to get to Star Search. That's what I think I wanted to do. I would see the kids on Star Search and I would be like, I can do that.
Oh, like Shanice.
Yes. And I never made it to Star Search. We never pursued it. I think I was going to. And then I just kind of felt like, I don't know, after that studio session, I kind of got over it. And then I started going to high school and I won. Oh, I would always sing at school in high school. So they'd always have like me and my cousin. That was like the only person I'd ever sing with when I did sing with someone else. They would have us singing like the Black History programs and stuff like that. And that was before I went to school with 702. That was a different school. So by the time I went to the performing arts high school where I met the girls, 702, I had been singing all around town and everything, and church and these competitions and all these programs and whatever. And so I was just kind of like, I never really knew if I wanted to pursue it to be this big superstar or, a famous singer. I just wanted to, I would always tell my mom, I just want to buy you a mansion. My mom says, you always tell me, I'm just going to be rich. And it was either entertainment, journalism, or broadcasting. I never knew what I really wanted to do, but I knew those were the top three things. I loved English and I loved creative writing and I loved being in front of a camera. So I knew I wanted to do something with entertainment, but I wasn't really sure, but I wasn't really pressed about being this famous singer. I just knew, I told my mom, I'm going to buy you this mansion and I'm going to be rich. And lo and behold, I mean, I definitely didn't dream about 702 happening. It's so interesting how life happens. But I was about to go to college, actually, because my sister, I have one older sister who had gone off to college. And I was so motivated by her leaving from Vegas, going all the way to the East Coast to Virginia, that I was like, oh, okay. Oh, that's how we get out of here, huh? That's how we break away from church. I'm out. Because my mom she was very strict and she was very, we were pretty sheltered, if you will, my sister and I. And, I was just this square church girl who I was a little more outgoing than my sister. They say the youngest one is always a little wild. Or wild. If you think about it, you think about all the famous siblings, think about the younger one. Always a little more wild. But anyway, so I was ready to go to college and I started putting in all these applications to go to a historically Black college because my sister went to one and I was just like, okay, I'm out of here. And then 702 happened and I never made it to college. I chose Motown over school. I chose Motown over higher education. Oh. I know. Looking back, I'm like,
when you mentioned
I missed everything.
When you mentioned your the recording session, it and how you thought the engineer or producer was pushing you too much, and you just said you quit, and then you think about what you went through with Zach. And you've experienced more than most mothers. I would say more than 90% of the mothers, and you still showed the resilience. So it's almost as if what you couldn't do then, it's almost as if you were able to. I just got that connection.
Absolutely. Like I never knew how strong I was until I went through that moment with Zach. I realized I'm way stronger than I thought.
Did you ever remember that 13-year-old you who just couldn't?
Oh yeah.
And then you think about, wow, look at she never knew.
Well, first of all, I mean, I was pretty overconfident, I think, at the time.
Okay.
I had won all these awards and I was like a local little star in my mind because I was doing I was doing the local news, doing interviews on these local news stations and write-ups in like our little local newspaper. So, I'm thinking like, oh, I'm doing pretty good. Oh my gosh. And so when he got to pushing me, I'm just like, this is not what I signed up for. Oh gosh, the things that we think we know. And I look back and I realize like, that did nothing but help me, really. He was just trying to strengthen parts of my voice that I had never tapped into. You know what I mean? And I look back now and I'm just like, wow, he's deceased now, rest in peace. But I remember him being really upset with me because he believed in me more than I believed in me.
Wow.
And I just, you know, I would see him around town and I would be like, hey, like, I was through with him because I was just like, in my mind, he was just the mean freaking producer who was just like, didn't understand. Oh, woe is Meelah. He just didn't understand. But I thank him. Gosh, I wish he was alive because I really would like to, you know, I don't know that I ever got to thank him before he passed, you know, and he knew about, you know, my success with 702. And I don't know that I ever got to just say thank you. So gosh, wherever you are, I hope, and I really hope and pray that he understands how, gosh, it was so humbling and it was just such a learning experience. I'm really grateful for that moment. I really truly am, because I had no training, no proper training at all. Leading up to that point, because people ask me all the time, you know, did you take voice lessons? And I'm like, no, it's just a natural, a gift from God, a natural given gift from God. But I don't say that I don't take vocal lessons. Oh, of course, we all should. I'm always a student. I'm never ever too arrogant or think I'm too good for studying or for learning. So we meaning me and the girls is 702, we always had vocal lessons. The label, we had them before, you know, the label put us in lessons, and of course the label puts you in them, and then, you know, you stay in them as an adult. You probably should stay in them. I mean, the best of the best are still vocally trained. But at 13, honey, I didn't need vocal lessons at 13 because I had never had vocal lessons. And I was like, what? I don't need vocal. God.
Yeah, I mean that's just amazing. The transformation,
got growth, right, for maturity.
Of that, yeah. But for somebody who always wanted to be a soloist and who strived at being a soloist, how much convincing did it take for you to join 702 then?
So it was definitely something that I wrestled with a little bit. My mom and I weren't 100% sure because, like you said, we were just so used to it always just being me. And I didn't know what that would feel like or look like, or, you know, I didn't know what experiences I would have coming into a group that was already formed, that was a family, you know, orchestrated group. Like I wasn't sure. I really didn't know. So it wasn't overnight like, oh, absolutely, there's no brainer. Yeah, heck yeah. It wasn't that at all. But I did go and audition once they asked me to, and I kind of just was waiting it out to see, like, if I really wanted to, you know, if this is something I really wanted to move forward with. I just remember my mom and I both being a little iffy, just because like I said, it was foreign to us, you know, so we just weren't sure what it would look like. And I think my mom she's like, now that I'm a mom, I get it. She's just super overprotective and just super worried about me. And but of course, like I said, my mom is a woman of God. So of course, you know, the first thing we did was just like prayed about it. We went to pray like, Lord, what should we do? That's all I remember. Like, she was like, we'll just pray about it.
Take it to Jesus.
That's right. That's it. Take it to the Lord in prayer. So that's what we did. But I think ultimately, like, that's exciting. Like, they were signed to Motown. Like, of course, as a 17-year-old, I mean, even though I was a little apprehensive, I wasn't no fool. I definitely understood Motown, you know.
That was Michael Bivins. Did you know who he was?
Yeah, of course. That was one of my first, actually, my very first concert was New Edition. I was like 7. And I was a New Edition fan, and I was a BBD fan. Like, I knew every BBD song there was. Not just a single.
Doobie? I was 7-year-old.
I had the cassette tape. I was in middle school. I was in junior high. I was like 7th or 8th grade, and I played that album to full circle. It's crazy how things happen. Full circle. Then years later, I'm like signing right to Michael Bivins. It's so weird. 510/Motown. So, but yeah, I was a fan already. But, you know, I just wasn't sure of my position. You know what I mean? I just didn't, like, again, I didn't know what to expect, but I did know, like, this could be a huge opportunity.
Yeah, yeah.
I had been approached as a solo artist from, like, I did so many talent shows that I definitely was approached by a few, like, little labels. I forget the name of that label. God, it's so old. Jesus. You remember Domino? God, that guy Domino back in the day.
Oh yeah, Domino. Yes, yes.
Remember that? Right. I have to get his song. Anyway, he had seen me and someone else, and they had labels, but it, you know, I had not been approached by a label such as, you know, 15.
Yeah, 15, because they had Boys to Men and ABC.
Yeah, right. And who else? I think, well, gosh, it was a few people before 702 and Subway. But anywho, like I said, they were already established, and so I just wasn't sure. But they chose me to go ahead and do the let's see, it felt like a boot camp.
Oh.
Go ahead and you know, train with them and see if I could blend with them, you know, lose a little weight, see if I could dance with them. So I had to go through, like, a series of tests, if you will, before I even made it to audition for Mike.
Yeah, I mean, and I do always wonder, because you know, it's one thing joining, getting into the industry. There's another thing joining an established group, because most of the people I've interviewed who formed a group together, you know, whether they were singing in high school and then let's come together. So you've come into a group that had 3 sisters and a friend. One sister has been told, you know, you can't make it, and vocally. So I don't know, all the sort of like, well, if she's coming, she better be good. And I don't know, and I'm not thinking about that, but just that type of pressure from the families and everything. And you know, and then we've seen you do a lot more of the lead singing. I mean, were you nervous? Were you afraid, or were you just too excited that you didn't even think about all of that? Or you just like, well, no, this is great.
It was all of that. And that's what I meant by, I didn't know what to expect. I didn't know what my position would be. I didn't know what it would look like for me. Yeah. That's what I meant pretty much by all that, is because the way it, and you know, we were so young, and I'm sure there were several conversations had around me and the girls, you know, around, like, not literally around us, like, that went around us, basically. Like, I'm sure there were so many conversations that we were not privy to, you know, and here we are in what, maybe 9th, I think Irish maybe in 9th grade, and me and Misha were like 11th grade. Like, we're 15 and 17 years old. And this, you know, these are big, huge money moves, you know. And you know, I don't know what they told them versus what they told me. And looking back now as an adult, like, that's stressful for all of us, you know. What I was told was, you know, Mike wants to just kind of switch out the group to bring in some more lead singers, or another lead singer to help out Misha, because at the time Misha was the strongest voice in the group, so she was deemed as the lead singer, and had done mostly all the leads, and I think she was doing most of the writing as well. But I guess he just kind of wanted someone, like I said, like it was verbalized to me, to help her share the load, if you will. And so that's where I came in. So to me, I just thought I was coming in to, like, split the difference, help her sing some of the songs. I think that's what it started out as, or that's how it was articulated to me. Now, I don't know if that's I don't know what the story is, but that's what I was told. And so maybe she could have been told the same thing or not, but the thing is, it ended up being different, because it went away from that. It ended up turning out to be different, because I went from helping her to sing lead on songs to kind of just singing leads mostly on all the songs.
Yeah, I mean, and as I said, I mean,
and this was not my choice. Just so
no. As I said,
this was just me coming in, doing my job, like, sing the song, and I made press record. And so that's what I was doing.
Yeah, and I think for us as fans, you know, we only saw the videos and the tours, and we see the happy side. And since we've been doing halftime chats, I've spoken to over 70 artists, and you know, we get to see that, wow, you guys were really put in really challenging situations,
really compromising, because absolutely, which leads to drama. And you know, and you wonder why groups tend to break up, it's always underlined negative, history. It's always just some underlying backstories. It's always some underlying drama, underlying animosity. It happens. And then being so young, you don't even really get to grow up. You have to grow up together, be glued at the hip, go through adolescence and puberty or whatever we were going through, like under all this pressure, and you know what I'm saying? And all you can do is really what you are asked to do or instructed to do. I don't know how the music business goes. I'm 17, fresh out of Vegas from the church. I don't know what to do. I'm just like, okay, and I think these are things that my mom was concerned about. You know what I'm saying? Because she didn't really know the business. She knows that I was green, she was green, and I'm a kid.
Yeah.
At the same time, so it was very, very stressful for all of us. But we made great music. But yeah, of course, there were times where it wasn't so fun, because I kind of by default became the lead singer. It definitely was uncomfortable a whole lot.
How was it when Steelo came out and it hits the charts and does so well? I mean, and most of us will remember, that type of 95 to 97 where before hip hop came and destroyed our industry. But there was so much competition, so many great artists out there, and to be able to make headway is not an easy thing, because there were so many great groups that just disappeared. So when Steelo, even though we had Missy doing her thing, but but it's still, it's still made out. Were you surprised how successful you guys, for your first single?
Honestly, it all happened so freaking fast.
Are you serious?
Woo! It was just, because literally my entire senior year, we recorded that album.
Wow.
We would go to school, sometimes leave on weekends, sometimes leave during the week, do homework in between takes, fly back. Right after I graduated, I'd say, I don't even know if it was a full 3 months. From the day I got my high school diploma, I was moved to New York, and we started prepping to do that video. We did all the album photo shoots for the artwork, and we did the video in New York because that's where the label was. The label flew us out, and I literally moved to New York right after I graduated high school, and finished the album, and everything just took off. We shot the video, and I feel like I graduated in May. I moved to New York around maybe August, and I feel like we shot the video in September, and Steelo, the album, came out in October.
Wow.
This is 96, because I graduated in May of 96, and the album came out like October of 96 or something like that. So it was just, and then I had no expectations. Again, I'm just fulfilling a job, a position, I'm just singing. I'm doing what I love. I'm loving singing. I'm loving this experience, but I'm not even thinking about what's to come. What am I expecting? What's going to come from this? I wasn't thinking about any of that. That hadn't crossed my mind. And it just took off. It just took off. To this day, I've been asked this question my whole life. And I'm still like, I don't know. I don't know how I felt. I was excited, but I was in shock. I think it was just, it was surreal. It happened really fast. And then December, we were on tour. So that's October. By December, we were opening up for New Edition for a 33 city tour. Yeah, their Home Again tour.
I saw you guys in Milwaukee.
Did you really? Oh,
yes, because that's still my greatest tour, because Blackstreet was on it.
Yes, that was so fun. Oh, that was so
fun. My favorite tour. Yeah. The whole all six of them, and Bobby comes out and does his stuff. Johnny,
we saw some stuff. Now I can write a book on that tour.
Oh goodness,
it was wild, but it was so much fun. And I was, you know, just grateful to have that opportunity, and for Mike, you know, to give us that opportunity and put us on stage.
Yeah.
That being our first album and being able to open up for that tour was major. And again, full circle, because, you know, like I said, that was my first concert as a kid at 7, New Edition. And, you know, I'm like, now I'm opening for New Edition, and I was like 17, like 10 years later. You know what I mean? It was just like, wow. Like,
but how safe was it for you? Did you have a nanny to look after you guys? I mean, these 3 young girls with all these guys.
Not. This is why all of us are nuts. No. No, we had, of course, the girls, you know, they're sisters.
Yeah.
Same mom, same dad. And their brother-in-law was our manager. And so he was on the road with us. Their other sister, their older sister, his wife, would come on the road. She was like road manager. Then sometimes my mom would come here and there. Their mom would come here and there. So they would rotate. But the parents, they started. That was short-lived. Okay. As years went on, as time went on, we just had management. And by then, you know, and that's the scary part, you know, because everything's accessible. You can do what you want to do, really. I mean, everything's around.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? You get alcohol, drugs, I'm sure. I mean, I never saw like drugs, like hard drugs, but the point is, I'm sure if I was like wild and just ready to try something, I'm sure I could have figured out. Somebody would probably got it for me. Like, you know what I mean? Like, that's so scary. Like, thinking back, and now, God, I can imagine having a kid in the industry now, but I'm so grateful that, you know, I was raised the way that I was, and that God covered me and kept me.
Yeah.
Because, you know, it's wild out there. Yeah. Was I perfect? Hell no. I'm young, and we've got all of this stuff happening and this success. Then you go back to feeling yourself, and you think like your little stuff doesn't stink. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And it's just like, but I'm so glad we all 3 of us were we never, you know, we were, God, Lord bless our hearts. We were so, I don't know what you call us, but we were the girls that, when they would ask, the promoter would be like, okay, I want to take you guys out to dinner. You know, where do you want to go? I want to take you to a nice restaurant. We're like, oh no, it's okay. We'll just have Taco Bell. Like, every city, I kid you not, we ate Taco Bell, Wendy's, or KFC.
Okay, at least it's not McDonald's then.
Well, if that's all that was around, I'm sure we probably had McDonald's a lot over in the UK, honestly. So we were just like clueless, you know, and green, and we never fully took advantage of all the travel, and I don't know, you know, I think we were all just kind of, like I said, just sheltered in our own ways, and didn't even realize just the massiveness of what was happening. I don't think so. And I mean, because every time you look up, we're just photo shoots, interviews, studio, repeat, you know, so. Yeah, you get excited, you know, you buy that house and that car for your mom, whatever, you buy your first little car, you know, you do stuff like that, and then it might hit you like, oh, okay. Yeah. Okay, I can get a little car. Ooh, I made it. But there's so much stuff that you're not taught, and there's so much stuff that you don't know, and it's so many things that either you can take for granted or that people can take advantage of, you know. Yeah. So
were you writing?
No, not the first and second album. We wrote all the time, but Motown never really allowed us to write the first and second album. We have songs that we wrote that weren't on the album. The only time we got to write on the album was the very last album, the Start album.
So I interviewed El DeBarge, and can you imagine after he'd already had hits with the DeBarge, All This Love and Time Reveal, when he came out with his solo album, Motown didn't allow him to write on his solo album, and he's already had these hits. So there was
what is that? Oh.
Yeah, I mean, El DeBarge, who'd written all these hits, he wasn't
right.
allowed
He's
by
El DeBarge. How dare you tell me can I write? That doesn't even happen to me.
So when you think about what they not let you guys write, and although one song that you did, you did feature, you know, Donnell has been on my show twice. It really,
I love him.
get it together. And he was telling me the story how that
Lord.
he had this song for his little group he was putting together. Then Eddie F says, give it to 702. And he was like, no, Eddie, I want it for my group. He said, give it to 702 and get it. I mean, do you remember working with Donnell? And
yes, very, very much. I was in 11th or 12th grade. That was one of those moments we had to fly out from school. And it took all of 3 days, and I didn't understand why it took so long.
Was that long?
I didn't understand why it took so long to do such a simple, in my mind, such a simplistic record. I was frustrated because I just did not understand why I was about 17, I think. I didn't understand what it was that he wanted from me that he was not getting. So after each take, I would think I did good, and I'd go do my homework, work on schoolwork, whatever. And I'm thinking we're done. And he's like, no. And at the time, he was communicating kind of like how you said your student was doing with his mother. He was doing that to the engineer or whatever. And I was just like, why is he talking? Oh, I love him. I love my Donnell. He laughs when I tell him the story. I'm like, you was crazy, right? And so that person, the engineer or whatever, would then, translate it to me or what have you. And I'm just like, well, okay, we have a whole translator. Okay. And I have to do it again. And I have to do it again. And I'm like, what do you want? So now I understand what he wanted was more than just a pretty voice. Of course, I could sing it because, okay, I could sing, but I wasn't, I guess, delivering the conviction or the emotion. I had not lived that. I had not had my heart. Okay, I maybe had my heart broken once by, first love or something, but that song, which I just learned through his unsung, his story that he tells about, his life, his music career. I just learned that song was about something he was going through with his then wife, the children of his mother, the mother of his children, pardon me, at the time, his first love. I think they were like high school sweethearts. That was him writing about his experience. And he might be a few years older than us, I'm sure, probably maybe 20, maybe he was like 20 something, I don't know. And so now I'm looking back and I'm like, well, I get why he got it, because he lived it. That was his story. And he wanted me to convey that. And I'm just like, what do you want me to do? But there's a method to his madness, because that is, to date, one of our strongest songs. So people love, even though Where My Girls At was our biggest hit, people love Get It Together. They sing that song word for word. I don't really have to perform that song whenever we sing it. I just hold it for that. They love that song. I mean, I don't know what it is. And so I'm like, there was a method to his madness because it worked.
Yeah.
And when I listen back at my 17-year-old self singing it, I hear him in me. I hear his tone. Really listen to it. If you're a Donnell Jones fan, if you know his music and if you know his voice, and if you listen to me and how I'm singing that song, it sounds like him. I hear the production, for sure. And it's so perfect though. It's perfect. Yeah. I mean, he did a really wonderful job. I was annoyed. Because I'm usually like, back then I was one take wonder. So I was just like, why are you making me do this over and over and over? Yeah. But what I will say about myself back then compared to now, I have my tolerance levels. I have no patience now. Back then, of course, I was super patient and super, even though I didn't get it, I wanted to get it. You know what I mean? Because I was like, I was a kid. So I want to make it. And I'm high, I'm like, in my mind, everybody's replaceable. So I'm like, no, I want to do what it is that he's asking me. And I don't want to gripe. I don't want to complain. Even though I might've been kicking and screaming inside, I wanted to get it right. I'm a perfectionist by nature. So I wanted to get it right. And although I was frustrated, I really wanted to I wanted to nail it for him. Yeah. And, I guess finally after 3 days. Yeah.
Well, I think
I love that song though. That's one of my favorite songs. Every time he lives here in Atlanta, and every time I run into him or we do shows with him still, I tell him all the time, I'm like, bro, my faves, man. I'm like, I didn't get it, but
But I think that's what separates Mary from most other singers. You know, vocally, she may not, you know, there are other singers who have vocally stronger voices, but
Well,
she conveys
mhm.
a story within her voice that you can hear the heartache. And I think that's the one thing that most of us who at the time didn't really get. We just
Absolutely.
listened to a song and enjoy it. But when we do hear people deliver it from a place where like, wow, you
Mhm.
know, Mary's, you know, and so that I think hearing this story now I can understand as
Oh yeah.
opposed to back then, like, what, you know, you just do one take, why don't you move on? But you know,
Right. I think because I sang it pretty, it was pretty, but it was no feeling behind it. Do you know
yeah,
what I'm saying? And now, as you know, a seasoned recording artist, that Lord, I practically used to live in the studio all the time. I get it now. I'll make myself do something 30,000 takes, and the engineer will be so annoyed with me. And I'm like, there's no feeling there.
yeah,
I sound good. I'm hitting the notes, but I'm like, I don't feel it, you know. And I'll take a break and be like, let me process, and let me, you know, really get into the lyric and really understand what I'm saying, because attitude, conviction, like you said, just conveying its emotion. I think what Get It Together brought, finally, what I brought to the record was emotion. You know what I mean? Like it sound like I sound like to me, I sound like I'm crying over the music. Do you
yeah.
know what I mean? And I think that's what he wanted, some type of emotion. I probably just went in there and just, you know, sang the song and thought I was done.
Yeah, yeah. But when did you realize that you guys had made it? When did you realize, wow, we actually, you know, you all the singles are coming up, but there was a song or moment that you thought, you know, actually,
I would say, I guess, I mean, I knew we had done pretty good. Like once, I don't know, Steelo did pretty good to me in my mind, and Get It Together did even better. You know, that's where we won like Soul Train Awards and all of that good stuff. But it wasn't about the awards. I think I really realized it with the just the reception of the people, like more and more people noticing us and appreciating us. And I think once we recorded the first album, we did the whole Good Burger thing. I think, and we did a lot with Nickelodeon. I think that's, for me, that's when I felt like, okay, we must kind of be okay, because I grew up on Nickelodeon.
yeah, yeah,
I
yeah.
grew up watching that channel, and to you know, do different shows on Nickelodeon and have this music with this Nickelodeon film, you know, that was the theme song, you know, for Good Burger. And even when we got a chance to do, you know, even though we were ourselves on Meelah and you know, Brandy show and Sister with Tia and Tamara, like,
Wow.
I mean, if you blink, you missed us. But the point is,
Yeah.
I'm like, okay, we're actually like, we might, I guess we're kind of made it a little bit. Like people might actually be digging us. We get to do all these super cool things. But of course, it wasn't until I think When My Girl Said, like, once I realized like that was just everywhere.
Yeah.
Like once we got to come to London and do Top of the Pops,
Oh, yes.
I knew we made it.
You know, most of my guests will always say that when they were on Soul Train, that's when their family says, okay, you've made it. Like the moms and grandmoms and grandparents watch you on Soul Train.
Well, yeah, that's why I was like, you know, we won. That's when we won.
Well, no, the Soul
won
Train
the Soul
show.
Train Award.
Yeah, no,
Right.
the old show,
the
like the
show, right?
Yeah,
Yes, no, they're right. And I mentioned the award because I'm like, if you win any award, you as a musician, you want to win a Grammy, right?
Yeah.
And our first award was the Soul Train, a Soul Train Award, a Lady of Soul Train Award to be exact. And you know, in my mind, I'm like, oh, okay, this is like this is like Don Cornelius, like legacy, like, excuse me, you know, that's major for sure. For sure. I mean, those were my mom grew up on Soul Train.
Yeah.
And watching the Elder Barges and the Barge family. And
it was much harder to win a Soul Train award than it was a Grammy, because the Grammys were very political. It was very much state. It was very. It's changed now, but back then it was very political. They always have the same, and I love Alicia Baker, but they'll have a say, but they Soul Train was very much up against a lot of competition. When you guys were out though, did you? It was you guys, there was Black, there was 3LW. I mean, the same kind of teenage girls. What was there like competition among you guys, or how was it back then?
No, I think I don't even really remember running into anyone other than, I think we may have seen Black here and there. 3LW, I feel like came out later, maybe after us, so I don't remember running into them. The only ones I really remember running into and actually sharing the stage with and doing the same shows with, like we did Soul Train with them. We had a few different shows. We would always be in the same lineups here and there. Was Destiny's Child.
Oh, were they on the same age and stuff?
It was their first album, and I think it was probably our second album, because our first album came out in 96. So the second album of ours came out in like 99, and I think that's when their first album dropped.
Wow.
So yeah, we did shows with them. Like I remember doing a show with them like in Houston. It was like Beyonce's birthday, and she had the camera and wanted everybody to say happy birthday. And I remember them at Soul Train backstage, and I remember Latavia, who I'm actually good friends with now in real life. She would say, I remember her saying they were talking about competition then. Someone, I don't know, some media person was back there and talked about competition, and we were like, and Latavia was like, but it's good competition, it's friendly competition. And I always remember Kelly and Beyonce being super sweet. I remember, they tried to pit us against them back then. And I think we had a whole spread in Vibe where we were on one side of the page and I was on the other side of the page in Vibe magazine. Because I think that's when Where My Girls At had come out for us, which was, doing really well for us. And then I think that's when probably what was their their first song from that album? Was it Bills, Bills, Bills? Maybe, or Bugaboo or whatever. But they like, they hit hard. They really hit the scene. And so we both were doing really well around that time. So I remember specifically them. First album, Total. We would do lots of things with Total. Total was out. They came out around the same time that we did. Escape and SWV were before us. So they I looked up to them totally. Like, I was still in high school, and SWV, of course, I was a Coco fanatic, and Escape was out as well. And I'm just looking like, oh my gosh, there's so many cool like groups out. Groups.
So many.
It was a lot back then, right? Which is sad. It's not now.
Yeah, that's a pity that it's not now. But
maybe more groups. Maybe one group.
What do you think happened because Destiny's Child just went on to another level and then you guys stalled? What do you think was the difference between that?
I think there were so many differences. I think we had been going for such a long time. I know they probably had started a while back as well. But I think we had started really having a lot of internal issues. That's when a lot of our stuff just kind of, all the personal stuff kind of took its toll. I think also there was some political stuff with the label, but unfortunately, I think our inner stuff got the best of us. Beyonce's dad was the manager.
Yeah, I interviewed him, Matthew.
Yeah, and Mr. Knowles made it clear, I'm sure, that hey, this is the lead singer, this is her role, this is y'all's roles. And in my group, I think, although we had the brother-in-law as the manager and I was technically the lead singer or whatever, I don't think that's not something that they ever really liked to hear. That was not really fun for them to hear, and me either, because it always made me feel uncomfortable. And I think, you may not think so or not, but those things, they matter. They make a difference. Do you know what I mean? Like, because I think it starts to play on your psyche. If you're a lead, but then you're constantly feeling like, I don't know if I should be because I feel bad because,
Yeah.
And then of course, I felt bad. I came into school. I was never insensitive to that. I always understood why they would feel the way they feel. But at the same time, it started to get a little old, and it started to get a little frustrating. And I think those things it just took its toll. And I think it gets a little hard. I think it gets overwhelming for you as an individual. And when you've been working at it for so long, you know, all of us have been working at it for so long, you know, you just kind of get, if you feel like you're not doing it the way you maybe thought you'd be doing it or perceive or whatever, you know, I think you just get frustrated and you just kind of give up, and you don't look at the bigger picture. You allow all that stuff to kind of, I think, get in the way of what really matters, you know, which is the music. Do you know what I mean? I think Destiny's Child, they had it structured. They knew look, this one, she knows what she do. She knows what she do.
Yeah.
And this is how it is. This is how it's going to be. No questions asked. That wasn't really the case with our situation, even though most of the time I was singing the leads, and it had kind of become like, okay, it just is what it is. It never really fully stuck, I don't think, because of how the group came about, because of how my entrance came about, you know?
Yeah, I mean, I can imagine if, you know, if I formed a group with, you know, my siblings.
Yeah, they had a random girl, right?
Got you know, got the name and everything, and now it just seems if, you know, somebody's coming in and taking the limelight, you know, the dark skin one in between the two light skin, and, you know, the more recognizable. But you know, as I said, most of us as human beings, you know, we react in that same way. I do wonder, is there no one in charge? So, like, you know, does Michael Bivins get involved to say, okay, guys, this is why we're doing stuff, or Motown, or you know, there's no person, like we talked about Dr. Mr. Knowles, voice saying this. Is there no one within?
It was, I think, well, I don't know. Mr. Bivins probably didn't get involved in that, no, but I do believe like management and
the management is family.
Well, later on, but later on, I had, when I went back for the third album, there was separate management that I pulled in. He actually was the executive producer of the first album, Todd Russo, and then he managed me the third album. So him, their brother-in-law, sometimes people from the label, A&Rs, sometimes would try and have those conversations, but they just didn't always go well. Yeah. You know, and so it would just turn into more tension and stress. Honestly, to me, in my mind, the difference is diligence, hard work, and discipline. You know, I think we got to a point where we allowed all of that stuff, like I said, to kind of overtake the bigger picture. And I'm not blaming us, because we were young and we went through a lot, and it was traumatic. And, you know, I respect how everybody felt back then. I really, truly do. I get it on all sides. But it was very hard. You know, it was very hard for me. And this is just my truth. It was very hard for me. But I did my job. I never complained. I took a lot of hits, not physically, but it felt that way a lot of times. It was hard for me a lot of times. Am I claiming like, oh, woe is me? No, because again, those girls went through a lot as well. Like, their feelings were hurt as well. But it was rough.
Well, I mean, you know, we talked earlier about, you know, when you went with everything with Zach, did you get help as therapy? And you said no, and then I wonder, when you guys were going through all this stuff, does anyone get someone to talk to listen to, so bounce it out? Because I don't know if you remember the group Profile, who sang Liar. So I interviewed LJ, and he said he was going through all this stuff. His dad had died, all this was happening, and they said sing, and he said he was going through depression, he felt, and he just quit the group. He says, there's no point, I can't continue doing this. And you know, so it was same Motown. But he said no one at the label cared. They, you know, Kadar was in charge then, and he was like struggling with this side. And and I felt for him, but I thought, you know, but for you guys was the
They don't really care like that.
yeah.
By they, I mean like the label.
The label is a
Yeah,
business, and you're a
yeah,
commodity, and you know,
yeah.
we'll get somebody else.
Yeah, the label don't really care that much. Sorry, it just is what it is.
Yeah,
But we all have our stories. You know what I mean? Like I know my group members. I'm not the only one that went through it. Like I said, they had their story. They went through stuff too, I'm sure. You know, when Misha got pregnant, right at the top of the release of Where My Girl's At, you know, and the label, you know, she went through hell for that, and we almost got shelved for that. You know, it was just a lot. You know, and it's like nobody's really taking our feelings into consideration. You know what I mean? It's just like, look, we got to put this album out. You know, so either y'all gonna do this or y'all gonna do that, or to all of y'all, like, you know. It's like, so there's always stuff happening. So yeah, I mean, the short answer, like, to the question of, you know, why do you think, you know, they went here, and we kind of, when we were at the peak of our career, it's just all the drama finally, I think, just kind of surfaced, and just from 96, you know. Now here we are like 2000, and it was just a lot of stuff still there, you know what I mean, that hadn't really been resolved. Yeah, it's just chaotic, unfortunately, by then.
Yeah, as I said, so that's why, as I said, it's one of the sad things that you guys all have to experience, you know, with a label whose focus is on making money, and no one caring about the welfare and the well-being of you guys
at all.
Yeah.
At all.
Yeah, I mean, and it's easy for us to start to think that, well, you know, it's as easy as coming together, recording an album and promoting it, and then at the same time, hip hop was becoming a lot more profitable for the labels because there was very little overhead. You know, you didn't, you know, and they were just thinking, well, this is becoming a lot more of a crossover hip hop, becoming more pop. So they were like shelving R&B and an investment in R&B. So they didn't give much space for flops, or for, if an album's not doing well, you know what.
Exactly. Well, you know what? Well, for the second album, I really didn't understand what happened, because Where My Girl's At was so huge that there really didn't need to be much of a push from the label. I think it started out with, you know, promotion and all that good stuff, but it did so well on its own and blew up, I think, bigger than maybe even they anticipated, that they kind of just let it coast. But it definitely should have been more of a push behind that even. But, well, at that time, though, I think Sonia was managing us. Brandy's mother, Sonia Norwood, was managing us that album. And I'm sure there were things that she was dealing with the label that we had no idea. You know, and that's always another issue. Like, we just learned recently, like, that our third album they didn't really push it. I think that's where Kadar was there. He kind of just put it on the shelf because he and management were like bumping heads. So who cares about your lives, girls? Like, my ego and your man's ego are conflicting, and I don't like him, so I'm about to put your album on the shelf and screw you.
Yeah.
Like, that's what happened with the last album. It's like, damn, word, like, wow, you know. It's just like, and they have the power to do that. That's what's so messed up.
Yeah.
You know, and you spend all this time and energy, and you know, you do all of this, you put all this work into this project. You know, we recorded 16 songs. You know, we released Star with Pharrell and did a video for it. That didn't really do anything. It kind of plummeted because I guess he had already decided in his mind. He meaning Kadar, like, he was, I guess, already over it. So wouldn't allow us to do another video for I Still Love You, which is the second song Pharrell had produced for us, which ended up being huge on its own without even being a single. And that's the only song that really did anything off that album and by itself. And so, yeah, that album pretty much was over before it came out because he was trying to prove a point, I guess. to
I mean,
manage.
we've heard how powerful these executives are.
Man, it's just like, what?
I mean,
Jesus.
you know Gina Thompson.
Oh my gosh, yes, I remember her. I love
Yeah.
her so much. I haven't seen her in forever, but people used to think we were sisters. Used to ask me all the time, were we sisters?
Yes,
Love
and the thing
her.
about it, you get yes. We had a good chat and interview, and I said, "What
How is
happened?"
she? I love her so much.
You know, yeah. So she, we asked, you did, things you do. What happened? She said, "Well, as soon as that was blowing up, Mercury was getting ready to get sold to Universal, and they just shelved everyone except for Brian McKnight." So she
Yep.
goes, okay, she goes with Missy, signs her on her label,
Mhm.
and she does a big album, and then Elektra just shelves the album, and it was heartbroken.
I
That's why
never knew that story.
yeah.
Wow.
So
And
it's
it's the politics of it all. Do you know what I mean? It's so many
yeah.
politics, most of which we're not privy to and or have any control of. And next thing you know, it's beyond your control and it's over. And then a lot of times your fans look at you like, yeah, why did you do this? Or why did you do that? How did you? It's like, I didn't have any control. I didn't even know,
You couldn't do it. Yeah.
Didn't do anything about it. Your hands were tied. So, it is what it is. But, fast forward to now, I'm grateful that at least we can still, hop on tours and do shows and perform and, get to give the fans a little bit of nostalgia. And it's really cool when, they get excited when they hear all the songs. And even like I Still Love You, even though that wasn't a single, I'm so grateful that there are those 702 fans that stuck around and stuck by us long enough to realize like, hey, I don't know what happened to this album, but I know this song was really awesome and they supported it. And, because of them, it's a song that's got, some pretty cool notoriety, even though, like I said, it was never even released formally. So
I just saw recently though that you guys are touring, because you just recently.
we'll be there. Yes, we're coming to you. You got to come to the show, friend.
Yeah, I've got
For Halloween, I think, like a Halloween block.
October 30th. No, but I was so I've spoken, so that I've pretty much interviewed half the lineup.
I'm
so
sure, right.
so
yeah,
so I'm definitely gonna be there. But no, but this past weekend, where you guys in?
Oh, we were just in North Carolina.
North Carolina. Okay, so it's
fun.
so I mean, how is it now, the three of you on stage and performing? I mean, just
it's much better. We had to take time apart from each other. We didn't speak or perform together for like years, probably almost a decade.
Wow.
And I think I had my son in 2009. I think we were unfortunately, their sister, one of the girls who was in the group before me, Irish, passed away in 2008. I hadn't spoken to them since 2003, which was when the Star album came out. So we hadn't talked in like 5 years. I learned about their sister. Of course, I was gonna go and pay my respects and be by their side. Of course, no matter what we went through, I'm definitely never gonna be that person. They even asked me to sing, I will say we had a lot of good times. It wasn't all bad times. We had probably way more good than bad. So they're family to me. I spent most of half my life with them, So I went to do that in 2008, and then I had my son in 2009. And, they reached out to me then because I think I I probably told them like what had happened. Yeah. And so they reached out to me then. And then after that, everybody lived their own lives. I was being a mom. Misha is a wife and has children. Irish, same, has a son. And so we just all live our own lives. Next thing you know, it's 2016. We hadn't talked in years. I reached out in 2016. I went to see them in Vegas because I hadn't seen them. And we sat and talked and just kind of flirted with the idea of maybe getting back together, maybe, doing some business together again. Not sure, but maybe. Everybody was on board. And then 2017, we had decided to go ahead and reunite, and we did the Soul Train Awards red carpet. It was in Vegas. We just wanted to just say hi and show people that we were back together. That was 2017. By, I think, the end of 17 into 18, 19, we were on the road, and then COVID happened. But we toured. We got back with, we did shows with some of everybody. BBD, of course, New Edition. Gosh, we do a lot of shows with people that came out around the time we did. So we do a lot of shows with other groups, which is always fun. So it's like Jagged Edge was just on the show last weekend, and we've done shows with Next, and we've done shows with 112 all the time. And I mean, it's just really cool to get back with the people that we started out with. You know, Meelah does shows with us. Adina Howard, like it's a lot of people like I grew up on. So it's so dope. You know, we are on these shows. I guess they consider them like these throwback reunion shows.
Well, you know, the Grandmaster Q Sweat seems to headline most of the shows where we
do. Oh God, Uncle Keith. How can I forget about all Uncle Keith? Yes.
Yeah.
So it's you know, it's always a blessing though. Like I really enjoy it. We run into everybody in H-Town. I mean,
yes,
and I mean, just groups that I grew up on, you know what I mean? We get to see them, and it's just a blessing to even see that they are back together again and doing their thing. Cut Close, we run into them from time to time.
Yeah, Tabitha,
Yes. Tabitha's crazy. I love her. And, but who else? Just like everybody. Brownstone was on the bill last week too. Like, so,
cool. Is it? But I heard recently that you were planning on releasing an album with music so child.
No, not a whole album. No,
we
do have songs out that we did in the past. We have videos. We did a song together called "Give It to You." That was back in like 2013, 2014. There's a video out for that, and then that's all we have out together, right?
Okay.
I'm thinking because we did a whole project together, but I never released it. I just released that one song.
Yeah.
But I am signed to his label, and so he's patiently waiting on me to release this album that I started in 2017.
Okay.
Thanks for your patience.
Okay.
So yeah, that's probably maybe that's what it was confused with. But I mean, I always love to do anything with him musically because he's such a freaking musical genius, Lord have mercy. So we have songs in the vault that I've never released, duets that I've never released.
Wow.
Yeah. I don't know, holding on. Some would say, they tell me I'm a music hoarder, whatever. So
what's
I just overthink and I just overanalyze, and I'm just like, I want it to be perfect, and then I change my mind, and then I'm just like, oh my gosh. And then years go by and I never put it out.
And then what but that's, I mean, if you've got the visuals for that, do you think it wouldn't do well, or what would hold you from
Well, I didn't, the visual was out for that, for Give It to You. We've done one video that was back then, that's out. But anything other than that, no, I never released anything. I have visuals out that are just Meelah records, but no duets with him, just that one duet. I didn't release the songs because, I was just nervous that, it's not good enough. They're not going to like it. It's just okay. They're expecting more from us. This is not good enough. You know, just in my head. He produced a whole EP for me back in like 2014 or something.
Wow.
He did all the tracks, and we wrote everything together, and I just didn't release it. But I released that one song, which I love, which did really well independently.
Yeah.
It did really good, called Give It to You. So all of the watchers, all the viewers, check it out if you haven't heard of it or haven't seen it. It's called Give It to You, Meelah featuring Musiq Soulchild.
So should we expect anything in the near future from Meelah?
The two of us again? From
me. Well, it could be the two of you. It could be that.
For me, for sure. Because like I said, I got to get this project out. Oh my goodness, I'm the worst. Gosh, I'm such an overanalyzer mixed with perfection. It's just like I drive myself nuts. And I do have a little bit of ABCDEFG ADHD, HIJKLMNP. So just all over the place.
Okay.
And I'll just hold on to it and be like, oh my God, I gotta finish this album. And then I'll be like, oh, it's dated now, it's old. And then Soulchild will be like, just put it out. It's old to you. It's not dated. It doesn't sound dated. I'm just like, I don't know. So
well, yeah, I mean, we're starved from hip hop is everywhere. We very rarely get anything. So
I know.
And then anything that we do get is that they call R&B. It's pretty much rappers singing, talking. Yeah.
Thank you. Yes.
So
yes, it's true. Yeah. I even have a record out there like that I had some of my young producer writer friends coerced me into doing. They persuaded me to do. They're like, God, just just do it, just try it, just do something different. It's not, people ain't gonna expect this from you. Like, just put it out. I'm like, because this is not my lane. And they're like, just why not? You can do what you want to do. And it's actually funny because it's called Do What I Feel Like. I do what I feel like. And it's so like trappy, nothing like me. Like it ain't, it's not an R&B, you know, Meelah singing song, but I'm glad I put it out. It's fun. It's called, you know, I Do What I Feel Like. So you guys could check that out too. Hashtag I Do What I Feel Like. That's the name of it. I mean, it was fun, you know, and at least I can say I did it. But yeah, I'm not trying to jump on a bandwagon and do anything that's trendy.
Yeah, because I think one of the female vocalists now is they sound so similar that you can't tell.
They sound alike.
They all sound alike, same sort of actone notes. And it's like, so for us, it's like who are used to hearing a Coco singing and Candy singing and Brandy, and you could hear and say, yeah, I know who that is. Now, I don't know the difference between SZA and Summer Walker. They're all, you know, they're all good, but they all, for me, who doesn't follow the music that well, if I hear a track, I couldn't tell who it is because they, and then any female coming up decides to sound just like them, and so that becomes harder for us to understand the lyrics.
No, I mean, it's very true, you know, and that's not, you know, that's not to diss anybody. There's no shade, but I feel you. Like I actually love SZA and the way she writes, and I love Summer Walker, especially the song Body, which samples Get It Together. Of course, that's my favorite. But they're both really dope. But I know what you mean, because, you know, most of these young female artists, they do sound similar. I don't know if it's these artists choosing to sing this way and be produced this way, or if it's the producers that are producing them this way.
Maybe so.
You know, being like, oh, well, this is what's working, this is what's popular. So
yeah, because the hip hop artists all sound the same. So Future and all of them all sound the same. So they're doing the females.
Well, that's why you do have to appreciate Jasmine Sullivan and her and who else has their own distinct sound, where you kind of know, like, okay, they're still young and trendy, but they've got their own sound. You know what I'm saying? It's like they're not trying to be the cookie cutter version of themselves and sound like what's popular.
So with that though,
I struggle with that sometimes. You know what I'm saying? Because I'm like, I'm a woman of a particular age, so I'm not trying to necessarily sing like you know, the younger crowd, but at the same time, well, when I came out, I mean, I definitely, like you said, Coco and Brandy, they were out before me, and those were voices that I listened to and that I learned from. And I would like to think that I have my own signature sound. And so all I can do is be true to myself. But if I come out and sing the way I naturally sing, which is sometimes just airy and just tone, then it'll be like, am I trying to sound like them? Or was I maybe an inspiration to them? I don't know. You know what I'm saying? I think the production these days is kind of all similar as well. But I respect these kids. I do. I listen to them. I get inspired by them for sure. But I also hear, not myself, just me, Meelah, literally, sometimes yes, but just my era in them, for sure.
Well, please, you have to get the put a task down so we can hear the music so child Meelah combo, because as I said, we're starving for
real music
stuff. And you know, the Beatles keep finding stuff they recorded 1,000 years ago, and they keep re-releasing it and says, oh, some vintage Beatles stuff or some old stuff, and everyone's eating it up. But I'm
gonna release. Okay, all right. So maybe I'll at least, I have to do the Meelah stuff for sure. But maybe the unreleased duets of he and I, maybe I'll, you know, put out an EP or something called.
And it's so easy. You just get it coded, you just put it out there and let before someone else leaks it online. But
because that's the other thing he says. Right, exactly.
Yeah.
No, I don't think anybody will be able to leak this stuff. This stuff that he and I did. That's the cool thing about, you know, owning your own stuff and being in control of your own stuff and being independent. Like, you know, there's nobody. If anybody leaks this, it's a ghost, because I don't know who that is.
We are. Well, you know, I always end my interviews by asking my guests that if you were stuck in an elevator and they said it'll take about 2 or 3 hours before you get you out, what movie would you request to watch while you're waiting to come out?
Oh gosh, you know what? Just so that I stay in a calm space, probably something like Forrest Gump. It's
Oh, okay.
classic. I love that movie.
Yeah.
Maybe because I really think he was on the spectrum, and so my heart is,
Yeah, he was. You know what? Thinking
I'm,
about
I
it,
have,
he
I'm
probably
warm with
was.
the special needs community. I'm very warm because of my baby.
Yeah,
I'm like,
yeah.
they didn't say it, but I think Forrest was definitely.
He is. Yeah, yeah. I'm gonna watch it again, and now with my
I'm
because
telling you.
therapy had on just be able to see because of that sense of you has being very open, be not knowing the boundaries and stuff like that.
I'm trying to tell you, if you watch it, like
Yeah,
if you are in tune with some of the things that
yeah, yeah, yeah.
associated with autism, I'm like, I think Boris was
Yeah,
autistic.
he's on the spectrum. Okay,
Yeah.
okay.
I love that movie though. But aside from that, I think I just love that movie. He did such a great job in that movie. He was
Yeah,
Tom Hanks is so convincing. It's just
yeah.
it just makes my heart feel good. It's just one of those like movies that you can just put on and like.
Yeah, okay. I need to go back and watch it. And then finally, what is your sort of your favorite song? I used to ask the question used to
Hard.
be if you're waiting for the movie to come on, what song do you request? But then people was picking songs about just to calm them in the elevator. And I said, no, what's your all-time go-to favorite song? Then I just wanted to get it.
Favorite song? It's too many. I mean, it really, even with the movies, like I love movies. I love so many movies. So that was hard, but I do love Forrest Gump. I always watch it. And Pretty Woman. Who can't?
Yeah.
Like, it's a classic.
You should have a favorite song, like okay, mine is my
okay.
Yeah.
This is hard. Okay. I will say this. I've always thought, and this it isn't a really, really old song either. I've always thought that one of the most beautifully written songs was Ordinary People by John Legend. I love that song.
Okay.
I really love that song. It's just, so I love slow, mid-tempo record. I'm not really a fast, upbeat song kind of gal. I like mellow stuff.
Yeah.
I just gravitate, I don't know why. Maybe, I don't know. I gravitate to kind of melancholy, moody music.
Yeah. Okay. No, that's definitely a good song.
It's so pretty, but I mean, nobody wants to be sad. But
no. Get It Together was a sad song. So
I know, right?
so don't worry about that.
It definitely was. I have a fake tear, my one fake tear.
Singing in the bathtub and all.
Yes. And I did that by myself. Thank you, my one ticket. Where's my Oscar?
Yeah.
And Ordinary People is great, or it'd have to be like I think Prince. Oh gosh, not Die For You. I love that one too, but oh God, it's another Prince one that just gives me my life every time I hear it. Oh Jesus. It's Die For You, and what's the other one? Oh my God, he has so many, right? He had two.
Yeah.
Oh my God, I'm gonna think of it as soon as I hang up with you. This is so annoying.
Okay.
But yeah.
Yeah, I mean my ultimate is always Michael Jackson, The Lady in My Life.
Oh, really?
And just and I think myself, Donnell Jones, Pamela Long from Total,
Michael
and David Chance from Rough End. So these are that's our
really.
So they all there's a number of others, and even
Michael has some stuff, man. That's hard.
Crazy Cone. Yeah, when I interviewed he actually got into music because he saw Motown 25, and that's when he said he wanted to get into music.
And I will say Quincy Jones, he produced the heck out of those type of records. My God, beautiful.
Yeah. So that's my favorite. Oh, do you know? I just remember because I did interview both Kima and Pam, and so both of them had BT the Encore, but also Kima did tell me that you during her hiatus that they were thinking about bringing you in, and was that when you left after the second album that you were sort of on the market?
Yeah, it was after I left 702 and
the second album before the Stars.
After the second album, in between the second album and the Star album, correct? Yeah.
Okay.
And I wasn't even really, and I definitely wasn't trying to be like a group hopper. I think that's what ultimately made the decision for me. I was just like, I don't know. I love Total, first of all. Love them. They treat me like family always, like little sister. I love them to pieces, all three of them. But I definitely, I was presented with the opportunity. And because I was over, I think at Bad Boy doing some writing and stuff.
Okay.
And Puff knew that I was leaving, that I wasn't in the group anymore. I was over at Bad Boy with my then manager, Todd Russo and Faith Evans, and we were writing and probably doing some backgrounds and just, vibing. And Puff, Puff, he's a thinker. So I think he probably was like, oh, well, she's not in, okay, so she left 702. And I think Kima at the time had left Total. So he kind of presented it to myself and Todd. And at the time, I was just so upset with 702 that I was just like, all right, I'll entertain it. I didn't want to, at the time, I wasn't, going back to 702 wasn't even on my mind at the time because everything that we had gone through was just still so fresh. So I was just still in my feelings.
Yeah.
So, and then I'm like, well, who tells Puff no? But I was just like, this would be interesting. So yeah, I entertained it. We recorded a couple of songs and everything, but
Wow.
I know. And I'm like, Keisha and I talk from time to time. I love her. And I'm always like, girl, where is the songs? Girl, where are the songs? And she's like, I know.
Yeah.
Where are the songs?
Who has
I
songs?
love to hear those songs. Oh my God. Me, her, and Pam recorded a couple songs together. So I definitely entertained the idea, but ultimately it didn't happen. Motown pretty much made me an offer I couldn't refuse. It was kind of like, okay, let me stop playing and go get this shmoney, as our girl would say these days. And I think also, though, it probably didn't happen because, like I said, I probably would have felt like weird. Like, I don't know how the public would have received that. I would not have wanted to look like the group hopper.
Yeah.
Like, okay, going to group, what's going on?
Wow.
But yeah, no, but it didn't happen. But they are always so cool. Kima styled 702. Like when they were still together, she styled us for like Teen Summit, which was this huge show on BET. They, and we would always, like I said before, we would always do shows with Total. So it was always mad love, always.
But where's it? Who recorded the
songs? Where are the songs? I don't know. I recorded a song with Coco and Kelly Rowland. Coco had myself and Kelly Rowland on a song for one of her solo albums. It didn't make the album, but where is the song?
Well, I'm speaking to Coco on Friday. I'll ask her, where is the song?
Where is the song? We always ask that question. It's so funny. People either ask her randomly. I've seen people ask her, or I'll see in my timeline, hey, I heard you did a song. Like, can we hear it? I'm like, when you find it, let me know. Yes. We'll be listening to it at the same time.
Oh, we need to find the engineers and stuff.
I know. Well, sometimes they leak stuff on YouTube. I have seen a lot of unreleased 702 songs on YouTube. And we're like, how did the heck? And I think it's probably some of the engineers from back then.
Yeah. But with the because Pam, she when I interviewed her last week about her experience on BT Encore, and she said it was really tough. I mean, they didn't, what they showed was not even half of it. It was the most challenging 4 weeks of her life.
I believe it.
When did you see a different side of your group members? On because what they record is she said what really it was harder than what they showed on TV, but they didn't show the fun side. But watching from the outside,
of course, I'm sure they just showed the drama and the negative stuff that people unfortunately are drawn to these days. Reality TV has become people's entertainment, and it's usually mostly mean girl stuff. Stuff that's rude and harsh and hurtful, but that's what makes good TV, I guess. Yeah. So, kudos for them for sticking it out. They eventually went home. They left because they were just tired of dealing with the negativity, but they stayed like, I think most 90% of the experience. They were there for most of the time. So they did better than me, because I know if I would have did it, I would have left the first day.
But when you watched it, did you recognize them when you saw them on TV? Did you think, wow, these are not the girls I know?
I recognize them. I think the unrecognizable parts may have been, I recognize the fact that Misha definitely always spoke up. She always defended herself. She always would speak her truth. She never backed down to anyone. So I definitely saw that in her. I recognized that. And I was just like, I was definitely advocating for her for that. Like, tell LeMisha. And then, you know, I just felt bad because nobody wants to go through that scrutiny and being under the radar, this microscope of just all things negative, you know. It's frustrating and it's embarrassing and, you know, it's humiliating because you don't have control over the footage. You don't have control over the edits. You don't have control over the perception of what is going to be put out there. So I was more so just concerned. I felt like a mother hen, like a big sister, you know. It was filmed here in Atlanta. And so I went, it was the day after my birthday. So I told them I didn't want to do it because I had.
I did see you go in there.
I had mad party fun time the day before. Okay. It was COVID. I hadn't been out of the house literally in like almost a year, like for real. And it was my birthday. And I finally stepped out for the first time for my birthday in like a year. And they happened to be filming at the same time. And the producer's like, please, you have to comment. Like, I'm like, but my birthday, like I actually am going out. I was actually hired to celebrate my birthday somewhere. So, you know, I was working as well. So I was like loud and like so excited to be out and I mean, living my life. And so I completely lost my voice. Wow. And I was like, oh my God, I have to go film. I don't want to go. I cannot do this. I was like, no, I had no idea I was going to wake up that horse. I must have had a heck of a time. Anyway, but I couldn't leave my girls hanging, especially since it was here in my city that I live in, you know, so I had to go support them. They were all the way across the nation in town, you know. So I went to support them. I'm glad I did. I don't like what I saw on television. I don't like what was portrayed or what happened with them on the show. But at the end of the day, we're a team, we're a collective. And so, you know, if one looks bad, we all look bad. So I'm going to go and I'm going to support my girls. And I let them know like, hey, I'm happy y'all did this because it was challenging for them, I'm sure. But I was happy that they kind of stepped outside of their comfort zone and tried something different. So I was happy I went, but I was very annoyed that I had no voice at all.
Oh, yes.
You know, just all I did, I wasn't going to sing or anything, but still I was like, why do I have laryngitis for the trolls to say even more negative things? But the good thing is, like, I don't care because the good thing is, like, I know that I can still sing live and sound like the record. And that was just in that moment, I had no voice. It's not like my voice is gone for the rest of my life. It's not like Meelah has lost her voice. I was like, people are gonna let me have it. They're so mean. Yeah. But no, it was cool though. I mean, I'm happy I went and supported them.
I mean, seeing you guys on stage. Yeah, but seeing you. Oh, you said but seeing you guys on stage now, as I said, I just saw the North Carolina footage from the 702 beat sort of.
Oh gosh, yes. I don't know. We don't even know who that is.
Oh, it's not you guys. It's not you.
No, but whoever that person is, I always slide in their DMs. I think it's a gentleman. So I'm like, I don't know how you do it, but I
thought it was your manager that had the counter.
That is not our page, but he's been doing such a great job for so long now that we just kind of let him run with it. But we don't even know who that is. We comment on stuff.
I thought it was your official.
It is so not, and it's so sad because it's been up for so long that we're like, oh my gosh, people really think this is our official page. So we keep saying we're gonna get an official page that we actually run. He does a great job, but honey, I don't even know who that is. And with the catfish of the internet these days, I ain't no telling what the heck. It's just like, it's so strange. But clearly he's a fan, and I mean, he gets clips of every show, literally from the time I take a bow.
That's how I see you guys.
Sometimes I have had to slide in the DMs and say, hey, you know, thanks, but this isn't a good look. Take this down, you know. He's always very nice and always says, okay, I understand.
There's one that's, I mean, the mic got stuck just recently. And
you put that on there?
Yeah. So I saw when she was trying to bring it down. So
okay, so now I'm gonna have to DM him and say, can you take that down? Why is that on there? Why would he put that on there?
Yeah, okay. So
I mean, it was a part of the show, but what was the caption? What does the caption say? Okay.
No, it was like the whole song. So I think you were singing "Get It Together," but
then Get It. Yeah, I think Irish's mic stand. Yeah, whoever was before us was probably really.
It was tall, and so it was like.
I think Brown was on before us, and you know we're like.
So somebody had to come in and help her bring it down and stuff.
That was me.
Oh, that was you. Yes, okay.
Yes.
And there was a few.
Yes. We're all like 5'8" I'm 5'2", so they're maybe 5'3", so we're all pretty short.
Okay.
And we don't use microphones until that song, and then I Still Love You. So the microphones were there waiting for us, but they probably didn't realize, our management probably didn't realize that they were still the height of who was before us. Lord of mercy. So yeah, her microphone stand got stuck, so I just kind of ran over and just helped her put it down.
Okay.
Okay, well, I guess in his defense, I guess he didn't necessarily spotlight that moment, I'm hoping.
No, it was the whole
I guess he's just trying to do the song. Okay.
It was the whole song, no. And actually what I was gonna say is that since the show, they look unrecognizable. They're not the same girls I saw on the show physically. I think I didn't realize that they were the same people. It's almost as if, yeah. So and it's good to see the three of you guys performing and hitting the stage and stuff. So I can't wait to see you guys in person when you guys come to London.
Thank you.
Yeah,
they're doing well. They're doing really great. I think sometimes it takes you seeing yourself, to realize like, okay, let me work on this. Let me fix that. You know what I'm saying? I mean, I do it all the time. Like I have a hard time even looking at footage on that 702 Beat page because I'm so hard on myself. And sometimes you should, so that you can know what you need to tweak or whatever. But I can't stand it. I do not like playback. But sometimes it takes, you've seen yourself to kind of get back in your zhuzh and get back on top of your game. You know what I mean? Misha looks great. She's doing great. And same for Irish. And I know that was, difficult to go through like public scrutiny and public opinion and all of that. But they're doing way better. And I'm just happy that that's over and that there's new news. What's the new gossip?
Yeah, no. You guys are good. I mean, I know, Meelah, I've been for a long time trying to get this, and I appreciate the time today. I've loved talking about Zach. Love just hearing your experience, and as I said, if there's anytime you think there's stuff you want to pick the brain, or just let me know.
I'm gonna reach out to you for some therapy, man. I'm gonna hit you up.
Yeah, as I said,
send back your way and say, sir, you need to go sit down and get on the computer because.
Yeah, I mean, if he's brave enough to come on camera with you, I have no problem. As I said, I've because once you, I mean, that's because since COVID we mix between, like tomorrow I have a clinic session, but then my one of my appointments, she is autistic, and how old is she? 14. But we're going to see on camera, and we're going to go back. So as I said, if
we had to do it with COVID, we had to do that. Yeah, a whole school year. His whole 6th grade year was virtual, and his therapy too. Because of COVID. Yeah, that was that year before last. Yeah, when they were. So he's familiar, but. Since then, yes, I've kicked him out. He's back in person at school. Yeah, no,
it's good that he's there. But as I said, if there's a time you just think, let's have a chat. As I said, I have no problem with just having a catch up and stuff, because I said it's inspiring. But I do think that with, maybe if he has the opportunity to just creates with visual with the laptops and stuff, and he can become a filmmaker or a producer.
It's something there, man. Absolutely. I thought he was maybe going to be interested in architecture at first because he used to love blocks and building, and he got over that.
But you mentioned about the recording and the voice and putting them together, and as I said, the boy Jacob Collier, he got discovered by Quincy because he did a remake of one of Stevie Wonder's songs, but he's very much into recording his vocals and laying them and all that stuff. So he just has I think he's autistic. He has this natural gifting, and he has all the computers and stuff. So when you just give Zach the tools, then he can start to take, he doesn't need just taking from the iPad to everything else and cameras, and he just watch him just create stuff, and so that'll be interesting just to watch and see.
Yeah, man, I sit back and I just kind of watch him, and it's been very interesting to see, and he's growing up, and every day I'm learning something new about his personality. And my personality too, actually. I'm learning a lot about myself. But yeah, I do notice that he's drawn to all things digital.
Yeah.
For sure. for sure. And he's a visual learner, so.
Yeah, so instead of a drum kit or keyboard, a camera and a laptop.
Man, I'm telling you, because the piano just sits there collecting dust. So.
He gives you some editing software and a camera and just.
Thank you for that.
That's
probably the best advice I've gotten, because I'm like, he's just not into instruments, but he loves music. He loves sounds, so it's not that he doesn't love instrumentation. I think he's just fascinated, maybe like you said, with just the piecing of them together, not the actual playing.
Yeah. And if he's taught what you can do with, he records his vocals and he can layer it and echo and stuff and expand it, then it'll be like, wow, then that's where you start to see, and then adding different visuals and stuff.
Yeah, I'm going to talk to Dad about that too, because I think Dad would be really great in that department, because Dad does cool stuff.
And as I said, it is, think about J.K. Rowling and the others who have that gifting, and to write Harry Potter to her was not a big deal. It was just
of course. And now,
so I do tell them that you have a super, if I'm big into the Marvel stuff, and being autistic, in a way, because I'm dyslexic, and so what that does for me means that I struggle with my spelling. I struggle with numbers and remembering. Handwriting is horrible, but I'm very visual, very creative, and I take very complex things and I can simplify it. So I have a gift,
of course.
But even though I have a weakness, or my kryptonite is my spelling and stuff, and so that's why I'm when I work with kids who are autistic, I'm very much what's your superpowers and stuff like that.
They're very like that as well, very much. What they are weak in, they make up over here.
Yeah,
they're extremely strong in. So for sure.
Yeah. So anytime, but I appreciate the time. I appreciate your story.
Pardon the delay. I don't really pay attention to my emails, because I had someone running all of that for me, and I kind of was like, when COVID happened, I'm like, I don't need it anymore. And now I'm like, oh my God, I'm the worst at it. I probably do need somebody handling it.
I appreciate the fact that you did remember, and and I think the timing, it was good, because as I said, I probably took a lot more time. I think we're gonna have to
edit so much, right?
I don't even know what we started. Oh goodness! So normally what happens is I start at 5 p.m. Eastern, and it's normally but then so it's 11:30 now at night. So we start at 9 o'clock.
Yes, I'm so sorry. Okay.
No. So I think the longest I've had before was Dawn Robinson, so 2.5 hours.
Now I beat her record. So
and you've beaten Dawn's record by a long shot.
Oh my Lord!
It's been fun. It's been fun. It's been educational and inspiring as well.
Thank you. Thanks for listening. Thanks for the questions. Thanks for the conversation. It didn't feel like an interview. It's just a conversation. So I appreciate it.
Yeah, but as I mentioned, if hopefully I do get to meet Zach one day, online or not. And
I hope so. I would love to bring him. Like I said, I gotta get him to London. So that'd be fun.
Even before he comes, we could, as I said,
before he comes, this is totally him all day. He could do the computer. So
okay, yeah. So whenever no recording and stuff, but just to listen to him and just any tips that
you're gonna have to pull the words out of him, because you're gonna ask him questions and he's just gonna look at you, and you're gonna have to prompt.
I mean, as I said, it's I don't know how it happens, but it's a grace to just sit in front and listen, and it comes.
You have a gift, I'm sure, and this is what you do, and it's probably your calling, and so you probably are like, the autism whisperer, and he probably will sit there and talk to you. I would probably be like, what? Huh? What?
Yeah, no pressure, no pressure.
Right, I know, right?
Yeah.
I'll be hitting you up really soon.
Yeah, but think about the computers and the digital stuff.
I will. Thank you for that tidbit. Seriously, thank you for that information, because I'm definitely going to take that into serious consideration. It makes a lot of sense.
Yes. Okay. So
thank you so much, and I will be in touch.
All right. Have a good night.
Have a good night.
Bye.
Bye.
Hey everyone, I want to thank you for being part of Halftime Chats. This new update is really about our membership, and I'm really excited to be able to fully launch the membership page. There will be things like full interviews from day one. As soon as the interview drops, you get access to it without any ads on it. There'll be some exclusive member-only videos that will just be some behind-the-scenes stuff and some other things that we will never be broadcast. For some members, you can be able to get actually two interviews because I do have a backlog of almost 7 or 8 interviews that I don't even know when I'm going to be able to broadcast them. So you're able to get at least some of those up front, and some just behind the scenes stuff, because there's a lot of stuff that goes behind the scenes that I have never been able to talk about or release. For everyone else, you know what, the videos will still be the same over a week or a week and a half or 2 weeks, depending on how long it is. So everything stays the same. The polls stay the same. The community chats, the community stuff stays the same. But I think with the membership stuff, I'm able to add a little bit more and invest a lot more time and energy in really supporting the members. So I do hope you come on that ride with me. I appreciate the support, and this will just help me continue to invest in taking things to the next level. Take care.